British supremacy in messaging services. We need to try and get everybody to use WhatsApp. This superior messaging system, and Americans refuse to use it. Do you not think?
We was talking about this earlier as to why Americans don't use WhatsApp more. One of the theories is that America had free SMS before anybody else. So us Brits had to pay. How much did it used to be for a text back in the day?
15p maybe?
15p?
10p.
So that would ramp up very fast.
But that was why people used to use LeetSpeak, right? That was why you was there, like LY, because you were trying to snap everything to under 160 characters.
Yeah. I once, when I was 14 years old, had my first ever girlfriend, and we would text and we would text and we would text.
You fucking bankrupted yourself.
Well, my dad's
How old are
honestly,
you?
my dad comes down one day, and you know when you have like A4 that you'd stack in a printer? He just drops that. So on the phone bill, and I'd racked up about £800.
It's an itemized
worth of
bill.
Text messages, yes. So I then sent her
That's a
one,
lot of sexting at 14.
Yeah.
I then sent her one final text, which was, can't do text anymore, let's do calls. So we did calls all the time. Next month. So I had to pay off about £1,200, £1,300 of debt to my father.
Still paying it off.
Yeah, no,
At age
yeah.
14, that could take a
Payment
minute.
plan. Dad, you're cock blocking me.
So that's how
I'm
WhatsApp.
14. I'm trying to get my cred up. But yeah, WhatsApp's a superior. Tim uses WhatsApp. Tim's good on WhatsApp.
I mean, look, I use every new inbox that is slowly eroding the sanity of everybody who's listening to us. Yeah.
Did you guys see the Nikita Beard tweet a long time ago? It feels like he said something like, every time I use WhatsApp, it feels like I landed in a third world country.
You're allowed to say that.
Okay, fair enough.
You're allowed to say that.
But no, I'm really...
We race swapped.
I grew up on Long Island. I think I'm allowed to say it too.
Race swapped Sean for you.
Fair enough.
That's the
And
primary reason.
I think I'm sitting in the same spot,
That's
too.
correct.
Amazing.
Yeah. People are like, Sean, he's lost weight and the beard's gone.
This is the
He's looking
designated
all right.
seat for the minority.
You grew up on Long Island? I didn't know that. Where?
Oh, yeah. Way out by Montauk. Back when there were potato farms.
That explains a lot.
That has changed. Now there are nightclubs that make all the locals crazy. But yes.
So is that beyond the Hamptons?
Yeah, Montauk is the end of the line. So if you take Long Island Railroad out from New York City, it will end in Montauk. And it was perfectly fine place to grow up. I didn't realize how strange it was until I got older. Because,
Why is it strange?
Well, when you're growing up, what is around you is normal because you have no reference point. But you're growing up in a location where you have a barbell of income and wealth distribution, right? So you've got all of the, let's just say the broad Hamptons that people know, which would have like the $100 million homes on the beach and all these famous directors and financiers and little white shorts playing tennis. And then you have, on the other hand, like affordable housing. When I was growing up, like crack epidemic in certain parts. So I didn't realize how much was missing from the middle of the whole thing.
Okay. Have you ever seen Mickey Mantle's questionnaire answer on the 50th anniversary of the Yankee Stadium? So
I feel like this is the kind of question my dad would ask me. He's like, do you know
all right, okay.
Henry Rubenstein from 1839? I'm like, no, of course I don't.
Mickey Mantle describes in basically a yearbook for the Yankee Stadium. It's the 50th anniversary of Yankee Stadium happening. Mickey Mantle, everybody is asked, tell us what your most outstanding experience at Yankee Stadium was. And this was sold for $242,000 not long ago, a few years ago. He said, I consider the following my outstanding experience at Yankee Stadium. It's like a questionnaire. He goes, I got a blowjob under the right field bleachers by the Yankee bullpen. And then below that it says, this event occurred on or about, brackets, give as much detail as you can. He says, it was about the third or fourth inning. I had pulled a groin and couldn't walk at the time. She was a very nice girl and asked me what to do with the cum after I came in her mouth. I said, don't ask me. I'm no cocksucker. Signed, Mickey Mantle, the All-American Boy. And that was sold about 5 years ago for $242,000.
Wow.
Speaking
on
of,
chain or off chain?
Speaking of hedge fund managers, I'm sure that's in the guest bathroom of some hedge fund manager's third home.
It's a bargain. You don't think that's a bargain?
In Montauk or thereabouts, yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, like, baseball's got a lot of superstition, but that feels like it's taking it to an extreme.
There's like a baseball player that had never washed his helmet or cleaned it or did anything for his entire career. Literally, the helmet look, I think it's Craig Biggio, if I'm not mistaken, but the helmet was just, and he believed in that so much that it had to be that way, never changed.
You've seen the guys walk out and they go right glove, left glove, tap, tap on the foot.
Yeah.
So it goes from being preference to routine to superstition to ritual to basically something sacred. It's essentially a rain dance that
Or mental illness.
I think those two cross over
I'm going to
quite a
refer
bit.
to all of my mental illness
Yeah,
as a rain dance from now on.
I'm going to take these suckers off. That's enough fucking POV porn, which actually was the reason that we wore these when we had Bonnie Blue on the podcast, so we could put POV in the title of the episode.
Has she done one of those with these?
I'm sure if you go dark enough and deep enough into the OnlyFans rabbit hole, you can find whatever you need.
Let me take my toothpick out of my mouth before I address the table. One of the things that I've been fascinated with for a while, I know you have as well, Christopher, I don't know about you two gentlemen, but etymologies of everything. So I was trying to rank my favorite etymologies or history of certain parts of language. One of them is not English, but it's Malaysian. And in Malayan culture, they use double rather than plural. So rather than tables, they will use table, which is one of my favorite things.
What is this 3?
So it doesn't scale. So it doesn't go...
That would be a nightmare if you're a table factory maker.
The same way we just use plural, we'll say tables. We could say 4 tables.
Right.
They would say, I assume the number, then table.
Wow.
Which is such a more fun way of saying things.
It's the same in Indonesian also.
Yes.
Like orang hutan, man of the forest. Orang
Okay.
is men, right? Man.
Man of the men. That's
Well,
something different.
Well, no, a man of the man. I think that's
Something
isn't that
different.
your biopic?
Man.
But it's so much better than...
A lot of heavy editing.
One of my favorite ones, though, is the word soon. So the word soon, I will be there soon, was the Anglo-Saxon word for now. But because so many people kept saying, I'll do that soon, and didn't do it then, we then created the word now to replace it, and soon is what it is today.
It soon got shifted down in terms
Yes,
of
like just
how urgent it means.
Generation by generation. What's interesting, now has that effect. Where if somebody says, I'll do that now, you don't really take them literally unless they say, I'll
Instantly.
do that immediately now.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you're seeing this drifting of now occur as well.
I wonder if literally is the same as that. Because when people say literally, they don't mean literally. Like, I literally couldn't believe it.
Exactly.
Well, no, you could believe it,
Yes.
which is the entire point.
My friend Alessio, he's Italian, and he talks about how he has a different personality when he's speaking in Italian. The Swedish writer Henrik Karlsson, a friend of mine, he talks about how he can access different thoughts in Swedish rather than English.
You speak multiple languages.
Yeah, what's Japanese Tim like?
lot more polite.
Yeah.
Curses less than Long
Yeah.
Island.
Are you totally fluent in Japanese?
Yeah, I can speak Japanese.
Amazing.
What's the story of learning that?
My first international trip, real international trip off of Long Island out of the US was to Japan as an exchange student at 15 for a year. I went from East Coast to Tokyo. And it took me about 3 weeks just to accept that I was in Japan because I couldn't believe it. That's how that happened. And it just stuck. I was there for a year. I went to a Japanese school, all of my classes in Japanese. I misunderstood what I was told before getting there, which was you're going to have Japanese lessons. And I was like, oh, great. Like Japanese language lessons. And they're like, here's your class schedule. And I was like, I can't read any of this. And they're like, physics, world history. I'm like, wait, what?
My lessons are going to be in Japanese. I'm not going to have lessons about it.
Japanese.
Wow.
So that will, especially, I was lucky because this was pre-smartphone, internet, not much to speak of. So I could not, coming back to WhatsApp, right? I couldn't procrastinate or avoid learning Japanese by constantly communicating with anyone in English.
There was no escape. There was just total
There was
immersion.
no escape.
That
Yeah.
seems to be, I get it. People go and do university courses in Spanish and stuff, and it's not just the language. Sometimes they're learning about the history and the culture and other stuff like that. But if you're trying to learn a language, and I did in school, we have to do at least one language in our GCSEs, typically the 11 to 16s in the UK. And I did Spanish. And apart from the most basic stuff that I've probably remembered because I've gone back out to the country, I basically learned nothing. It would be, if you just wanted people to learn a language, doing a 6-week immersion would teach you maybe the same as a year of weekly classes?
You could do a year in 6 weeks, no problem. There's there's a method called the Michelle Thomas method, and Michelle Thomas, male, was Holocaust survivor, then became an intelligence officer, ended up speaking 5 or 6 different languages, and developed a method of getting people up to basic conversational fluency in a week.
Wow.
In a rush, in a weekend, in terms of giving them the scaffolding of the grammar and so forth. But it's a lot like learning some type of very fine motor skill, right? If you wanted to learn how to play tennis, it's like if you're playing once a month, you're never going to learn tennis. Even once a week, you're just not getting the density of practice and the reinforcement for you to go from the like unconscious incompetence to conscious competence to et cetera, right? You're just not getting the proper density. So languages, I think you can learn languages a lot faster as an adult than you can as a kid, actually.
Why?
Because you already have the base layer of labeling and concepts and so on, and different types of abstraction in the form of, let's just say, grammar, or a subjunctive, let's say, if you had $1 million, what would you do? Or like a hypothetical that is counterfactual. These types of things, I can explain that to you. You can't explain that to a 3-year-old. When's the last time you talked to a 3-year-old? They're not actually very good at speaking a given language. The reason that people mistakenly believe that kids learn faster is because the kids have no choice. The kids have no mortgage. The kids have no job. It's just like
they're forced into immersion.
You have no choice.
Have you heard Nassim Taleb's description of how to learn language? He said the best way to learn Russian is to go into a Russian jail.
I mean, that's a harsh trade.
Quickest
That's a
way.
harsh trade.
Quickest
to-
way. Yeah, true.
Life or death scenario.
You have to really want to learn Russian.
But you will learn.
Yeah.
Do you think, can you think in Japanese, Tim?
Yeah, I would say that there's typically an English interface, but when I was in Japan for a year and then came back to the US, it took me about a month to get back to speaking English normally. Like I remember the first few days when my mom would come in and wake me up and I would just start speaking to her in Japanese in this days. And it took a while to get back to things. The soon is pretty funny, the etymology of that. And it makes me wonder if much like, let's say, Eskimos and snow, right? Or Hawaiians and water or whatever, that it depends on the historical punctuality of a culture.
You're going to say that the Italians have got 5 words for soon.
Well, I think it probably is something like that, right? Because in Japan, it's like now is now. There is no second, third, fourth way to say it unless you're maybe being really polite, because the honorifics in Japanese, it's like 12 languages in one if you really want to be sophisticated with it. But I don't know if they do it in the UK, but in South Africa, they have now, then they have now. Just like in certain places in Latin America, they have like ahora, like now, and then they have ahorita. Like ahora is kind of like now, but like when you get around to it, right? Or when I get around to it. And then like ahorita is like, hey asshole, now actually means
mean
right
it,
now.
Yeah. What do you think is the latest nationality on the planet?
Brazil?
The latest.
Latest.
The least,
if you were to,
punctual.
I'm going to organize a dinner with somebody, and I can pick a bunch of different nationalities. Which one's going to arrive on average last?
like the Olympics, but in reverse.
Have you ever heard of Indian Standard Time? I'm not even joking. This is actually real, because it's 1 hour later than it's actually supposed to start. So it turns out a long time ago, people would go to the movies.
Yeah.
And the movie doesn't start on time, which is absolutely hilarious. Everybody just expects. And then the whole term Indian Standard Time came about, which is absolutely hilarious. But it's typically referred to as 1 hour past something is starting.
After the actual time.
So I've heard Brazilians refer to Brazilian time also. Well, what is the least punctual?
It's anywhere that's got good. I think you can talk about culture and people and stuff like that. But what's more interesting is to just talk about what is the lifestyle of that particular ecosystem. So if you're going to go Spain, Italy, Portugal, you've got wonderful weather, late nights throughout the summer, everyone's smoking, having a red wine. Like you've been to Palma, Mallorca or wherever, and you see people outside sat on wrought iron chairs having a pre-dinner cigarette at 10:30 p.m. at night. These are old people. They're not going out. Oh, this isn't the beginning of them going out to go and party and head to the club afterward. They're not going STK for a nighttime party brunch. So I would say maybe some of the Mediterranean-y places like that. I guess as I think further afield, I don't know much about India, but perhaps Nirav is the
Neither do I, but it is
genealogically you do.
Tim, you know a lot about Denmark. I'm like, oh, I don't know.
I wonder. This is really hippie crack shit. But this is what we're here for.
Now we're getting
that. Yeah. I wonder. It's like that Sapir Warp hypothesis of how much.
Oh, lost me.
That
didn't sound hippie friendly.
He'll get that.
The idea is that it's the Wittgenstein quote of like the limits of my world are the limits of my language, and we think that we shape language, but language shapes us, and it feels immediately like so trivial, so esoteric to have the conversation. Everybody kind of dismisses language as it's almost like neurolinguistic programming, that we shouldn't take it seriously. But how much the words that we use. So I wonder, obviously, England, Australia, America, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa share this English ancestry. But how much then that they have the same language keeps the culture similar as well? Versus if you fork the language, do you change?
I don't know, man. If you go and meet a South African, you compare them to a Scottish person, they're quite different.
So true. Both angry. Both very angry. So there you go. And we had this at my birthday.
I was in the middle of nowhere.
I didn't realize the spectrum exists when it comes to how people think as well. So we had my friend Billy and my friend Cameron. And Billy can't think visually at all. So he can only think in words.
Yes.
Cameron can't think in words at all. She can only think visually.
And you see there's a test that you can do, like imagine an apple in your mind. What level of detail can you see the apple at?
Could you pull that up, Jared? The apple visual test.
The lack of it. I think it's called aphantasia.
Yes. Yeah, aphantasia.
How do you guys think? Do you think more in words? Do you think more in visuals?
Imagine an apple in your mind. What level of detail can you see the apple with?
You know, when growing up, there was like this whole people with like very the visual memories or whatever. They would just like look at something and then effectively recite,
Eidetic
50 word.
Eidetic is what people think of as photographic. Yeah.
The photographic stuff.
So Billy, for example, would be number 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would just think the word apple.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
And then the Cameron could see the apple, but if you asked her to create that, to see the word apple in her mind, she couldn't do it at all.
I asked her how does she count in her head, and she said it's stairs.
She literally visualizes stairs. It's a fucking nightmare.
I mean, I'm about 10 out that direction. Like I have a super hyper visual memory. Like I can remember almost every floor plan of every restaurant I've ever been in.
What's the like if
I mean, I'm not trying to store that.
So but 10-10, where we went for dinner the other evening, can you remember
the table?
Yeah. What was on the table?
I don't remember the name of the number of the table, but it's like the server door was directly to our left, right? We were effectively the last booth at the edge. The bar was to my right. Nirav was to my left here, right? You were here, sort of at my like 2 o'clock. So we ordered way too much edamame.
No, we ordered the right amount of edamame. Which is too much edamame. It's just the only amount of edamame that's appropriate.
It depends on how many gallons of oil you like on your edamame.
It's true. I think salted edamame, when you start to try and spice up edamame too much, it ruins it.
But here's what I would say, just to quickly put something to this. I don't want people to feel badly if they can't go out a few standard deviations towards like the like hypermnesia, right? The opposite of amnesia, because when you have, my dad has this as well, really exaggerated development of certain types of memory, it can make it really hard to let go of grievances, slights against you, the email that you sent that ended up, whatever it is, right? Like
your errors as well.
There is an advantage. There are some tremendous advantages to forgetting. And so when you're not as selective, you could argue it's almost counter-evolutionary past a certain point to have an overly developed memory, I would say.
Yeah, I think I can recall, like, one of the things that I was talking to somebody about was that I have vivid face recognition, like almost like the Face ID type situation. And I can remember faces that I've seen only one time 15 years ago. problem is this becomes socially awkward. Oftentimes, you meet
So there's
somebody,
a massive asymmetry.
right? And you're like, I know everything about you because we met once, and this was 10 years ago. But you can't really bring that up.
Okay, you freak.
Yeah, it's like it's very creepy.
You
but
sound like a stalker.
Do you want to?
Exactly, but I did not research them. Similarly with quotes and visuals, I think I personally have a very, very vivid like visual element, and I can probably look at something once, and then 10 years later, if you quiz me, I would probably get about 90% of that correct.
Yeah, it's wild.
Do you want to tell the story?
But the forgetting part is crazy.
Do you want to tell the story about the first elevator we ever got into together?
Oh my God, yes. I actually, I think there was a new appointment of an Xbox CEO, and she was like, I made a tweet about it. I was like, wait, she doesn't really have any experience with gaming.
Mm-hmm.
And then Chris and I were in an elevator, and turns out she was there.
Well, you're leaving out one critical footnote. That tweet was not seen by 2 people.
It was
Millions,
seen by
millions of people
You know,
saw you call out the Xbox CEO.
You know,
We
I
get
was-
into.
I was just simply remarking about culture and the way that like people frame this, because like it's a unique development.
But I
Yeah.
put my foot in it.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
I'm trying to big up my friend
I know.
who recognizes the Xbox CEO and goes, hey, you're the CEO of Xbox. There's some unassuming lady, dressed real nice, had maybe a partner or security or something with her. I'm like, you identify correctly, and she sort of sheepishly is like, yeah, I am. That's me. And I think you introduced
She was very
yourself or
nervous
something.
about it.
A little, yeah. She was sheepish about it, which was quite
And
charming.
she was the actual CEO. I was like, wait, that person's usually just like so into it or whatever.
And I said, well, you should. It is Signal on X. You must. He's a fantastic writer, tech, and all the rest of this stuff. There is a 100% chance that she saw your tweet, and immediately, as soon as I said that, the fucking atmosphere in the elevator went frosty as hell.
It was look, I nothing against her personally,
I
but
tried
like,
to do something nice for a friend.
Superpower
No, it was wonderful.
Came back to bite you.
no, and that has happened multiple times. I think going back to Tim's point about the forgetting part, I think about this a lot, which is what a great feature of the mind in some sense, like the forgetting part. Like I think about AI memory. You know, today it's so easy to build, like tell AI to extract some fact and try to remember it, and we store it somewhere, and then you basically use it for some other thing.
Mhm.
It's very common. People are doing it. How do you forget AI? How does like an AI forget things? Like what
There's
is
no
the underlying-
pruning
Yeah, and then like
of salience.
how do you think about the world with respect to, you know, building sort of artificial memory constraints, just like the human mind? And the forgetting part is such an essential element. Like that is no longer relevant, or that is not important at the moment.
Mhm.
The AI systems don't really know that.
Mhm.
Mm.
And so when you pass in a bunch of these memories into context, which is what a lot of these companies do, turns out you get a lot of noise.
Yes.
And it tries to make these connections.
That's
that
what it's like
your
to be
mind-
Tim.
There you go.
Well, if people want a real exaggerated case of not forgetting, there's an old book called The Mind of a Mnemonist, like mnemonic device, The Mind of a Mnemonist by A.J. Luria, which is effectively an extended case study of someone who never forgets. And there are other ways to look at it. I think there's a doc called Brain Man about Daniel Dennett. I think I'm getting that right.
Yeah.
And
The atheist.
you know what? The Dennett, I might be mixing it up with the philosopher who passed away, but it's something very close to that. But people can look up Brayman. British.
I taught George yesterday about savant syndrome. You know what this is?
Mm-hmm.
So there was a famous case of a guy called Thomas McHugh, a British guy. So in his early years, he was in a youth prison, was a bit of a disruptor, kind of a hooligan type guy. And he's in his 50s, early 50s. And on the bathroom, he shits himself so aggressively that he causes an aneurysm, like a blood explosion in his brain. And then as he's on the floor, he's terrified that someone's going to find him with his pants around his ankles. So he tries to pull his pants up and causes another one to go off. Completely like pops both sides of his brain, wakes up in the hospital a few days later and turns into a obsessive painter who can only speak in rhyme and paints between 3 or 6 or 9 paintings at any one time, paints for 19 hours a day, and couldn't bear to think about suffering. So it sort of sweep the steps in front of him as he was like some Buddhist guy. He just had a total come to art moment. But yeah, shat himself so aggressively that he had acquired savant syndrome.
I think if you're a great athlete, for example, you gotta learn how to forget. You guys know about yips, like in baseball and other places. So it turns out,
what is a yip?
It's like typically, you make an error or you do something egregiously wrong in sports. Everybody's watching.
Right.
And then you're sort of have this phantom reaction or whatever, and then that continuously happens. And yips is like somebody throwing that ball, and there's some famous players that have dealt with this problem. And turns out, you gotta forget.
Yeah.
You gotta
So
forget.
it's like a conditioned hesitancy or flinch
So
or
flinch, getting in your own way.
Involuntary potential reaction, but I'm not quite sure how it relates to the memory aspect of it. But ultimately, when you're a great athlete, you watch a game tape afterwards, you're like, okay, I processed it, and then you have to discard that. You learn from it and you move on. Did you guys see the Mark Andreessen stuff about retard maxing?
Yep.
That, I think, component wise,
I asked Huberman.
how many times does that word get said?
Huberman if he's personally threatened by the retard maxing movement.
What do you say?
I think he is. I think he partially is. His entire career has been built on anti-retard maxing.
And there's a lot of these people who have they have a set of context. I don't know why I refer to everything like this, but and then they sort of keep it around. But it's super valuable to discard some of that stuff because ultimately none of that really matters. I think Sam Harris, all this stuff.
Go.
No, I think it was just really interesting. The present matters the most. People tend to focus on the future a lot more. Anxiety, the worries or whatever. And then they marry that with the past. And I think this is one of the things I personally am like, how do I live in the moment, think about what matters, and focus on a few things? And
whilst
then
learning
maximize
from
it.
my experience.
Exactly.
As well.
But you learn from it, but you don't dwell on it. You don't ruminate on it. I think I had to move neighborhoods from a breakup because every time I walked around, I could vividly feel the moments that occurred in that place. From a coffee shop to, I don't know, like a flower shop to a restaurant.
A dog that you regularly see.
I
with
walk
its
in a
walker.
restaurant, I'm like, I sat there. This person was next to me. I knew exactly what we talked about. I knew exactly how that moment ended. And I could replay that every single time I took another step.
Dude, one of the best stories I've heard about this is from Alain de Botton, and he's describing being in Paris, and it's a early summer day, beautiful weather outside, a little cloudy, a little bit of sun, and it's sort of late afternoon, classic European fashion. This French couple are sat around a small table, wrought iron chairs, and they've got a couple of espressos, and they're just so deeply in love. Young couple, sort of maybe mid-20s, something like that. He's got this line, he says, I looked at them and realized that this beautiful memory would be one of the greatest sources of pain to one of these people if the relationship ever ended.
So
it's strange that this thing that at the time is really, really wonderful actually becomes the thing that's kind of I'm never going to Paris again, so I'm fucking moving to Rome or whatever it is because I need to totally change my context. And that's also the same when it comes to phones, right? I tried to stop using my phone, and this still kind of works. I just changed the pocket that I put it in because I realized that for an entire decade, I'd had my phone in my right pocket, and like a speed shooter withdrawing his firearm, I would just mindlessly put my hand in my pocket. The number of times that I pulled my wallet out when I changed it to look at my wallet, it's just habitual. It's just this obsessive sort of routine.
You guys know about this phantom vibrations? So it turns out people have their phone on their pocket, right? And I went to a meditation retreat. And no phones, just meditation. And I felt vibrations. I didn't even have my phone in my pocket.
Do you have a vibrator?
2 of them.
There we go.
That might have been my dildo.
But no, these...
We don't call that a meditation retreat where I'm from.
Fair enough. What does Bonnie Blue call it?
Yeah, true.
Tuesday.
It was really interesting. And it turns out, I Googled it, it turns out that's actually a real thing. People feel phantom vibrations from their phone. You can go check it out. And I was like, wow, your body is so tuned to this every time you get a notification, every time you get whatever, and most people have their phone on silent now, so the vibration's really like a thing with the haptics.
Pavlovianly programmed yourself
pretty much
to expect this thing to
so
happen.
like this sort of device is now a potential part of the way that you sort of feel and understand the world, in this case kind of like a touch type sense. But it was remarkable, and I went down the rabbit hole and I looked at it and I was like, wow, this is not just me.
Yep.
There's so many individuals. It, like you said, if I move my phone in the other pocket, the other one will completely vibrate.
Yeah,
all the
my
time.
wallet's going to be vibrating.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for some people that might be a feature.
Again, true.
Wow.
Before we continue, most people in their 30s are still training hard. Their protein is dialed in. They sleep better than they did in their 20s. Discipline is not the issue, but recovery feels somewhat different. Strength gains take a little longer. The margin for error starts to shrink. And that is why I'm such a huge fan of Timeline. You see, mitochondria are the energy producers inside of your muscle cells. As they weaken with age, your ability to generate power and recover effectively changes, even if your habits stay strong. MitoPure from Timeline contains the only clinically validated form of urethylene A used in human trials. It promotes mitophagy, which is your body's natural process for clearing out damaged mitochondria and renewing healthy ones. In studies, this supported mitochondrial function and muscle strength in older adults. It's not about pushing harder, it's about actually supporting the cellular machinery underneath your training. If you care about staying strong into your 30s, 40s, and 50s and beyond, this is foundational. Best of all, there is a 30-day money-back guarantee plus free shipping in the US, and they ship internationally. And right now, you can get up to 20% off by going to the link in the description below or heading to timeline.com/modernwisdom and using the code modernwisdom at checkout. That's timeline.com/modernwisdom. And Modern Wisdom at checkout.
To play devil's advocate on the ability to remember everything being a bad idea, I think a lot of these conversations, rather than a light switch, it's more a dimmer, and different people, different occasions, it will be good and bad for. Because a lot of people look at us being able to remember everything now, very similar to when writing came along. So before writing, we couldn't store any information down. So that completely changed us. But I always think of, so do you guys know, I've forgotten the name of Grenfell Tower in the UK. Have you heard about what Grenfell Tower is? So it's one of the biggest tragedies that's ever happened in the UK, where a council estate, which will be the equivalent of your projects, was poorly designed, set on fire.
Can you get a photo of it up?
Loads of
Jared,
people,
Grenfell Tower.
Loads of people burned alive in it. And it was a huge government inquiry. How are we going to fix it? What are we going to change about it? And what was the crazy thing about the day was that as this building was on fire, kind of like 9/11, a baby was picked up on the news, was dropped from the top floor.
Look at that.
So a baby was picked up from the top floor and dropped, and somebody caught it. And it was this kind of miracle in this horrific day that happened. And it got reported everywhere. There was about 5 different eyewitnesses. And about 6 months later, after the emotion of the event settled down, a few physicists started looking at it and going, well, hold on. That baby at hundreds of feet in the air, if we just ran the math here, it would just disintegrate on the catch. And as soon as they started to inquire the eyewitness testimony, it was a completely hallucinated memory. So on the one hand, the ability to store memories will mean that we can't let go of certain things, but it may also mean that we let go of complete fictions that we're telling ourselves that never happened.
Or that we would invent them as well, right? Because if you're Tim, your recollection of the flames is, in 4K.
Yes.
But the mirage of a baby being thrown out. The terminal velocity of a cat is non-fatal.
What do you mean?
I can't say it any other way. There's only one. If I drop a cat from any distance,
yes,
it's the speed that it reaches when it hits the ground
is exactly the same.
On average is non-fatal.
So it doesn't die.
I'm gonna
surely not.
I'm gonna just raise an eyebrow.
Ask ChatGPT. A cat's terminal velocity depends on its size, body position. Yeah, whatever. Estimated terminal velocity is about 60 miles an hour. Some studies and veterinary analysis place it between. Okay, so depends on posture. So if you've got a cat,
around 5 to 7 stories. Yeah, okay.
Injuries,
that's higher up than I would expect.
Some cats survive because they reach terminal velocity, stop accelerating, relax, and then orient themselves for impact. I'm not. Look, it's trying to caveat, like, basically, am I okay to throw a cat out of a window? That's what ChatGPT thinks I'm doing.
Now, this is one of those cases when somebody's like, when people die, they release DMT from their brains, and I'm like, how would you know that though? Like, which families consented to have some scientists be like, I know this is a hard moment, but let me like tap your grandma's brain. And this is like
the terminal velocity of a cat's not
but
fatal.
I'm saying injuries often increase up to around 5 to 7 stories. Like, I just want to know
beyond 7 stories,
like, where in like Sierra Leone they're like, okay, let's take these 40 cats and drop them.
You just put it into one of those t-shirt
5, 10, 15
t-shirt
stories.
firers that they t-shirt cannon that they've got in.
Probably pull that data from some damn
speaking of hallucinating, I just want to fact check myself. Daniel Tammet, Tammet.
Perilously close.
Yeah,
All right, what'd you bring to the table?
Hallucinating is a really fascinating subject. So people talk about AI hallucinations.
Now we're in my
zone. sorry, hold on. This is we're still going. The highest reliably documented fall survived by a cat is generally believed to be 32 stories. Sabrina in New York City, 1987. She fell from the 32nd floor of a skyscraper, survived with a chipped tooth, collapsed lung, and minor chest injuries. After treatment, she reportedly recovered fully. Dude, telling you, terminal velocity of a cat, non-fatal.
They're able to slow themselves down, right? Effectively, like a parachute-ish.
I mean,
Possibly.
I mean, they're not flying squirrels.
Wow. This is remarkable.
What did I get you with the other day? Oh, it was when we were talking about the fact that if a man doesn't have a girlfriend, the way that he behaves between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. at night can only be destructive. And I told a friend about this, and
unless there's the internet.
Well, even with the internet, it's still destructive, right? Because you're just embedding bad habits and doom scrolling, and it's all bullshit.
Self-destructive, I suppose.
However,
less on maybe.
I asked a friend about this, and he said, "Yeah, so my buddy was single, and I'm in a relationship, and apparently at like 8:30 p.m. at night, he would just receive photos of his friend headstanding, just like selfies of him doing headstands."
What could go wrong?
Yeah. All right, Nirav, what have you brought? Come on, give me some.
I think the hallucination thing is really fascinating. People have this debate on AI hallucinations, and there's a bunch of these topics that I've written. And Andrei Karpathy has written a bunch of this stuff, and turns out, humans hallucinate as well. Almost all the features of AI today that exist, they exist in humans in some way, shape, or form, and people are often really baffled by it. Right? They hate the hallucinations. I think of them as more of like just a replication of the human mind and how it works. And turns out people hallucinate memories all the time. People manipulate memories. In fact, if you look at things in the past, you're effectively removing. You remember often fond memories or really painful stuff. The middle kind of fades away oftentimes. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, Tim, about like, I think about this a lot because for our product, we have to like make sure these things are low and context is there.
Do you want to explain what you do?
We're building kind of, today the iPhone is kind of when you look at it, when you go for a glance, people always tap on apps and then you have to go and pull whatever you need to know. We're kind of building a layer on devices that is kind of glanceable information directly on your home screen. That's entirely processed by AI. What you might want to know right now, or things might be important to you. And the idea of intelligence today, as it exists, it's much more, I'm going to go ask it a question, create this giant prompt, do all this stuff. And, basically you have to do the heavy lifting, where we try to do the heavy lifting for you by making that presentation layer directly on your home screen that sort of understands what's happening already in the background and surfaces it when you need to know it. So it's kind of an agentic home screen for your iPhone. Turns out the iPhone home screen hasn't changed in 20 years. You're roughly using the same device, the same thing.
Widgets, I guess.
Yeah, and they're underutilized. I think we use them in a creative way.
Yep.
And so, we're not going to go. We're like 2 people, 3 people, so we can't really build a device. We can't really invest hardcore. So we have to operate in the application layer and utilize all the things that are affordances that the OS exposes to us as developers. So creatively, we sort of build this experience, and we're a few weeks old, pretty awesome, but it's been so much fun to be able to think about the way that ambient AI will really work. Imagine you go into a room, there's a screen, has presence detection, knows who you are, what you might want to see or know or do. If you wake up in the morning, these are the things that will kind of light up over time. And so like this stuff might be in your life persistently if you want to, with your permission.
Have you thought about what to call it? It feels like sort of context dependent.
Ambient
something.
AI is good.
Ambient AI
Good for
is
you.
lovely.
Geordie as well, AI.
Ambient AI. AI. Yes.
We need to have,
Yeah.
But I don't know if the terminology's there. You know, it turns out all the terminology that exists in the past, right? You know, the hashtags of Twitter and whatnot are invented by their users. And people are like, oh, we should call it that.
Bottom up, not top down.
Yeah, exactly.
We're still waiting for a fucking name for this series on the podcast.
Do you think the future user interfaces are the glasses that everybody predicts? Because I was thinking the other day, as somebody who has zero experience in designing hardware or products, that I think the future is probably the AirPod case, where you put the AirPods in. And I saw a tweet the other day that Apple have just patented cameras at the edge of the AirPods, so it could feasibly pick up the visual information here. And then with this little box that you have, you could be speaking to this device. You could even have like a little
that would be a signal receiver,
here.
right?
Yeah. So we're not always on these screens. We just have the little AirPod case, ears in, and then the box here.
One of the problems you have with the hardware is that you need some processing power that's outside of it. That was the hardcore. I mean, you had an Apple Vision Pro before you sent it back.
Yes.
And you need, if you're going to have something on your face or something that's a wearable, you need to think about ergonomics and weight. And that means you need to send the processing off to a different location.
Totally.
I don't know. I mean, you're right that VR is really not delivered. I think. I mean, there's always it's going to the next thing. We're going to wait for the more. It'd be comfortable. The slimline down, whatever.
It'll get there.
You think?
Yeah.
How long?
Until what? What would be a good, like,
Widely,
not quite Turing test. It's not the right
so like
example, but
the sort of level of penetration that we've seen with
now we're talking.
with AI or with like pick any sort of normal device, but AI
That's the
would
name
be
of your
good.
podcast.
Yeah, the depth of penetration.
new series.
Very shallow. Very shallow.
Wide though.
Like that. I don't know, like 500 million or 1 billion users of either one product or a category of products that has something to do with.
I mean, that type of mass adoption is a high bar, but I would say getting to the point where people actually enjoy, let's just call it thousands of people spending hours a day using some type of lightweight VR strongly AI native system. 3 years, maybe less.
I've seen some shit that's made by Meta that blew my fucking mind. It's their next after the next set of glasses, and that was like absolutely wild to be able to see that. It's they're still clunky and dorky, right? But they'll over the time that they're building this out to get it down to the form factor that you need. But I mean, these things, those things are like, they're really good. The best thing about those is not an ad. Best thing about those is the fact that you can take a photo or a video without using your phone. You know, there's that famous video, was it the Champs-Élysées on New Year's Eve, maybe 2023? And I swear it's just this street of people and all you can see, the entire thing is just phone screens from behind, right? Looking at the thing you're supposed to be looking at.
Dystopian.
And it is just phone screens.
It's ridiculous.
Well, you heard about me at the Louvre? Have I told you this story? So I had these on at the Louvre in Paris, being a sophisticated individual that I am. So I had these on, and everybody was
just looking at people's feet under the bathroom stalls.
Yeah.
George collects feet. So that's
you can buy them.
It's no longer a permit. You can't really have eye contact with people in the Western culture because it's like a whatever. So people are always looking down on their feet.
And that's why George comes in. Here it is.
So I had this experience at the Mona Lisa in the Louvre. So everybody was there with their phones taking a photo, but I had these glasses on. But the problem is because the Mona Lisa is so small and I'm so far back, my girlfriend now has a photo of me. So there's loads of people taking a photo of the Mona Lisa, and then there's me with my glasses in the air. I'll get the photo out of it. It's horrific. It's horrific.
It is nice though to be able to record something without taking yourself out of the moment. And I think just that,
yes,
you know, I don't like the battery life, or this thing, or they're still a little bit clunky, or I don't usually wear glasses, or whatever. Like, I get it. But the opportunity to be able to just take a photo or a video without having to feel like, oh, I'm back on this screen that I hate. I'm back in this digital environment that kind of just compresses my memory down into one time of me being on this screen. Most people don't realize how much being dehydrated impacts their performance, which is why for the last 5 years, I've started pretty much every morning with Element. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything that you need and nothing that you don't. This orange salt in a cold glass of water is like a sweet, salty, orangey nectar, and I really tell the difference when I take it versus when I don't. It plays a critical role in reducing muscle cramps and fatigue, helps to optimize brain health, and regulates your appetite while also curbing cravings. Best of all, they have a no questions asked refund policy with an unlimited duration, so you can buy it and try it for as long as you want, and if you don't like it for any reason, they'll just give you your money back. Plus, they offer free shipping in the US. Right now, you can get a free sample pack of Element's most popular flavors with your first purchase by going to the link in the description below or heading to drinklmnt.com/modernwisdom. That's drinklmnt.com/modernwisdom.
Do you think you would feel better or worse after 6 months of not being able to take photos or video of anything? Other than like, okay, you need to take a photo.
It's going to be very difficult to do this
a business card or a scan for like business purposes. Fine.
For me, taking photos doesn't get in the way of my life anywhere near as much as just the ambient pinging and navigating of the digital device itself. The photos, I'm in and out. I have seen some marathon photo sessions being taken at sunset. I went to somewhere on Long Island. I can't quite remember where. There was a beautiful sunset happening over a lake, and 15, 16, 17-year-old girl group. It was a endurance sport of photo taking. I'm like, okay, that's something else. Like that's kind of almost pathological. But for me, I don't know. What about you? Do you think it would make a marked difference to your life if you couldn't take photos or videos for 6 months?
I think it's a useful thought exercise. I would suspect it'd be better. I mean, I have not had any.
Says the man with a photographic memory.
Yeah.
Damn, perfect.
I can train people to have better visual memory.
Okay, can we do it?
What was that?
Can you?
It's not like a,
now you know Kung Fu.
It's not like an Oz Perlman 60-second bang.
Okay,
it's not one of those.
But what's the Pareto basics to get better at a visual memory?
Start producing. So I would have people to get a book like Drawing with the Right Side of the Brain, which is a bit of a misnomer in the way that it lateralizes things, hemispherically. But if you practice, for instance, this is one tool in the toolkit, right? Practice drawing. And for instance, right, if I had a flower in a vase on this table, which would be not the most compelling way to get someone to draw, but we're all practicing drawing. What you would notice with most people is that they look at the flower, they go down to draw it, and they start drawing their mental concept of a flower. They're not actually referring to the thing in front of them. And then there are different tricks you could use. For instance, if even right now, as we sit in Austin, Texas, bright outside, could have you look at a tree or a bush around here, sit down, I'd be like, okay, draw that, but I want you to only start with the black parts. And you'd be like, but it's a bright day, it's a green thing. I'm like, look again. And you'd be like, oh shit, there are actually black parts. Okay, we'll start with that. And as you start to do that, or depending on where you are, it's like, when most people walk through, say, I mean, in Austin, it's easy because it's like cedar tree, juniper ash, oak, like that's it. I mean, I'm being a little facetious, but there's not as much tree diversity as in other places. But if all you see is quote unquote trees, it's like, okay, well, let me just teach you. It's also subject dependent, right? Like the 6 most common trees in upstate New York, Austin, wherever it might be. And all of a sudden, instead of just seeing trees, you start to differentiate, right? So all of those, it's partially visual acuity dependent. It's partially attentionally dependent so that you're referencing something as opposed to referring to your concept of tree, table, person, whatever it might be. And then there's kind of a label dependency, right? How fine tuned or fine sliced is your ability within a given domain. Right. So if you were doing like live gesture drawing, which I think is a great way to practice drawing, and there are a number of places around Austin and a lot of places where you can do live gesture drawing, you'd have, a model in front of the room. It's not always going to be a hot naked chick. I hate to break it to you guys. Sometimes it's going to be like obese naked dude, but that's fine. And they would start with say 5-minute poses, or they might start with like 1-minute poses. Typically they'd start with like very short poses So you can't over analyze or intellectualize what you are doing. You have to keep your hand moving. And then they would go to longer and longer held poses. And you'd be shocked how much your visual memory improves if you do that and you are not constantly self-interrupting. So for me, I mean, I don't have any social media on this phone. I haven't for a couple of years. I do not think I've sacrificed one iota of quote unquote being informed at all. I don't have Vibrate on. I do not have Ring on, which can produce some funny like death spirals of people trying to like call one another, but neither person has the phone ringing. But I also think, you know, there's some data to suggest that if people have fewer mirrors in their homes, they are generally self-report as being happier. This is a mirror, right? This is the black mirror. So I feel like the less you look at this thing, haven't run a study on this, but I would bet a healthy chunk of change. I just think the less you interact with this, the better, especially given how prevalent fake feeds are. Right? It's just like the machine is an illusion, most of it.
Did you guys see that quote where I think this philosopher, I forgot the name, but it was like, man was never meant to have a mirror. Self-reflection like that is detrimental in some ways.
We wouldn't have known what we looked like until, Jared, can you find out when mirrors were invented? When was the first?
You would know with water. You would know with water.
Yeah, you would go to a pond, for example, and look at your
like Achilles'
face. For example.
Yeah,
their nature
or Narcissus.
This is why, like, if you look at animals, they're for a variety of reasons, obviously with intelligence or whatever, but they're often very baffled by their presence in the mirror. And now we're looking at ourselves more often than ever before. The selfie camera has effectively changed the dynamics of everything.
During COVID, there was something called Zoom face. There was a marked increase in people getting cosmetic surgery because they were seeing themselves more.
Yeah.
Because they were spending so many
and now there's
hours on
AI filters on Google Meet and Zoom that
I want my
add
skin
makeup.
Smoothing for my interview.
Exactly. You would add makeup or whatever. I think going back to your point about the photographic memory thing, did you guys ever play that
Which
game?
I don't have, to be clear. Like, I know people who can do this and then 10 minutes later read it back to you.
Right.
From memory.
That's
That is photographic memory. I don't have that.
You know that game you used to play as a kid when somebody would draw on your back and you'd have to figure out what they drew?
Yeah.
It was actually a really interesting skill building game because then you would have to effectively imagine different senses coming together. So you feel what somebody's drawing, whether it's a flower or a mountain or a sun or whatever.
Always a penis.
And if you're exactly
First, always
also a good podcast name.
Just always a penis.
That game was remarkable.
All roads lead to penis, maybe.
Pretty
much.
I know you like the Roman Empire.
Downfall of penis.
So what's I was just double checking then because about the history of the mirror.
Can I say how much I live? How you say double? I can't even fucking say it.
Double.
That's
God, it adds like at least 7
sounds very
IQ
Irish.
points.
I'm from Rochdale originally, Tim, and whenever you're in the UK, it's a big tourist scene. You'd love it. I'll take you there. You'd love it. You'd love it.
Okay.
Where is that?
The mirror.
So the mirror, that we had the creation of the mirror. But I, as part of AI coming bigger and bigger, I've been going down like old revolutions, so the Industrial Revolution and the Gutenberg printing press revolution. So Gutenberg, when he was creating the printing press, he was originally trying to create, I think, a mirror machine, and accidentally or ended up morphing into what became the printing press.
Wait, what the hell is a mirror machine?
So
That makes mirrors.
yeah. So there you go. So around
I don't know how you get from that to the printing.
1438 to
You grind sand to make mirrors.
39, Gutenberg was in Strasbourg running a partnership to mass produce pilgrim mirrors, small polished metal badges that pilgrims pinned to their hats to catch holy rays radiating from relics, then carried home to benefit
That's
relatives.
cool. I like that idea.
But
It's like a capacitor for religious goodwill.
So his capital was running out. To appease investors, Gutenberg said he would share a secret with them, art and adventure, research that was the basis for his yet-to-be-built printing press.
That's cool.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice. All right, Tim, you must have some heaters. What have you brought from home? Show me something.
Yeah, I've got something. This is an article. I've got a bunch of stuff, but I'm going to take kind of a slight left turn. It's related to a lot of the stuff we're talking about, but this caught my attention. It's an article called Riding the Leopard by Packy McCormick. And it was sent to me. I had never read anything of his. And this was sent to me a few days ago by someone adjacent to one of the top AI technologists out there, which is part of what makes it interesting. So I'll read a couple of sections here, and then I want to get your sense and thoughts on things. So, what a week to get to talk to a room of technology people. This is a transcribed talk that Packy gave. Sierra just raised at $15 billion. Anthropic crossed a $44 billion run rate and launched a new company with some huge funds that have $1.5 billion to deploy, blah, 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 blah. OpenAI did the same thing, but with $4 billion, blah, 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 this billion, that billion. All of which raises an important question. Who gives a shit? I mean that. Why do we care? And then it goes down. And he says, last night, a woman who reads my newsletter reached out over Substack DM. She said she'd been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. She's now in remission. She'd been confronted with the question we've all been facing. What happens to human purpose when AI removes scarcity? Or in her case, the need to be productive. To answer it, this is the interesting part, right? She analyzed more than 200 sci-fi books. Across all of these books, by far the most common thing left to solve for post-scarcity is meaning. 59% of books were about the search for meaning. Identity was next at 17%. And then it goes on. And, there are questions. If new technology is so great, why are so many people unhappy? Right? If we have means our ancestors couldn't have dreamed of, why is there a meaning crisis? And then it quotes Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl, who wrote, the truth is that as the struggle for survival has subsided, the question has emerged, survival for what? Ever more people today have the means to live, but no meaning to live for. And ultimately in the piece, he ends up talking about, he really goes out there. Well, I would bet that Dear Packy has done a fair amount of drugs, but, and that's meant as a compliment, Packy, if you hear this. But we get into non-duality, we get into differentiation as moral obligation, but I want to explain the origin of the name of the piece, Riding the Leopard, and it's from Joseph Campbell. And effectively, he's talking about the hero's journey, and I'll read 2 parts and then I'll stop. But the goal of the hero trip down to the jewel point is to find those levels in the psyche that open, and finally open to the mystery of yourself being Buddha consciousness or the Christ. That's the journey. It's all about finding that still point in your mind where commitment drops away. The separateness apparent in the world is secondary. Beyond that world of opposites is an unseen but experienced unity and identity in us all. All right. And then this is the sort of wellspring of the name of the piece. You must return with the bliss and integrate it. The return is seeing the radiance everywhere. All right. The goal is to live with godlike composure on the full rush of energy, like Dionysus riding the leopard without being torn to pieces. And it goes on. It's worth reading. It does get a little squirrely later on, but what I'm curious about is how you guys think about, if you do, solving for meaning, because I tend to skew, I wouldn't say dystopian, but hyper vigilant and have a lot of concern for the next 5-10 years, not just with AI, but with the reaction to AI. Right. So it's one thing if AI, quote unquote, takes jobs, but if everyone fears it is going to take jobs, there are consequences of that in and of itself. Right. But I'm wondering how you guys think about or solve for meaning. And I'll just add one more thing, which is, actually, no, I'll save it. I'll park that for maybe injecting a little later. But how do you guys think about it?
One thing that comes to mind, this is the weirdest thing, by the way, which is, I like aviation, and this is all going to connect, which is, turns out airplanes crash only because there's multiple systems that go wrong, whatever. And the reason why that came to mind, Tim, was that a captain has a decision to make when something bad happens. How much do you communicate what happened to the passengers? Mm-hmm. Like, what do you say? Do you like, hey, we've lost hydraulics, we've lost stuff, multiple systems are wrong, whatever. Completely transparent, you freak people out. If you're not sharing enough information, people are like, oh, what's going on? Why is it turbulent? How does that marry to AI? The people who are building these systems, how much do they communicate what they think are things that might change about the future, things that might have a turbulent nature to them? And that is a delicate art, which is, you see Dario going on pods and saying stuff like, software engineering solved, software will be free. Once that happens, you get these ripple effects, whatnot, all this stuff happens. And there's other people who are like much more optimistic about the world, which is like, hey, you know what? Every revolution has created jobs. Certainly it has eliminated them, but we've progressed. And so it's really fascinating. I think this is an interesting environment where people are like, how much do you, even as a lot of researchers in San Francisco, for example, really believe that we've solved almost every problem, roughly, that the dominoes will fall very quickly from here on out. If you have AI self-correcting, self-researching, you get to AGI, what happens?
How do you solve personally? How do you think about meaning? If you do, this is not this is not like a prejudgment either. I'm not like, what? You don't think about meaning?
You know,
you crass capitalist.
I tend not to. I'm not a planner too much. You know, I think planning is good in some sense, but also kind of detrimental. It occupies bandwidth that would otherwise be more useful for now. I think people tend to live in the future a little bit more than they should.
Are you religious?
What was that?
Are any of you religious? No.
I'd say I'm spiritual, but not necessarily, organized religion or whatnot.
Welcome to Austin.
Was that?
Welcome to Austin.
I think
we all do a bit of Scientology every now and again, right?
Do a bit of Scientology. You make it sound like weed.
Yeah, come on.
We do a bit of Scientology.
Did you guys see what Brian Johnson posted yesterday? It was like prayer. He's talking about prayer. And he's like, I've been trying to pray more, and I don't know what prayer means, or I don't know what prayer is.
If Brian goes full circle and ends up being a Mormon again, that is going to be...
There was a quote tweet exactly like this. He's like, turns out the answer to everything is just Jesus Christ.
Honestly, dude.
Or longevity or whatever.
There was a funny comment. I think Brian, that's an interesting one coming from Brian. I would love to talk to him about that more than a lot of the biohacking, given his history.
Brian's a sweetie.
All right. I mean, I like Brian. There was a comment that they said, wait, let me get this straight. Brian left Mormonism. Now he's telling us we can't drink alcohol. We can't drink caffeine. I thought that was pretty good. But
old habits die hard.
So what is this? And again, I don't want to belabor this, but I actually really want to know from you guys, like how you think, if you think about it.
I guess there's a few different parts as I'm saying.
I know a lot of uber successful people who can logic and debate their way through the labyrinth of intellectuals around them, who have lots of money, who are ready to fucking jump off a cliff. Like that stuff doesn't.
And do you think that would be stopped if they had more meaning? You think the reason that they would jump off a cliff is because of their lack of meaning?
I think that is one large contributor.
Cool.
And there's a difference, there's a loneliness epidemic, but solving for loneliness doesn't solve for meaning.
So
totally.
There's quite a lot of strands I'm going to unpack.
Yeah.
Chess is an interesting one, right? That the AI can beat any human being at chess, but human beings still play chess. Magnus Carlsen seems to have a very enjoyable time playing chess.
Mm-hmm. And
go on.
Well, there's an interesting anecdote there that this idea that it's going to take away everything. It's therefore humans won't have any purpose. Yeah, it's seemingly better than everybody at chess. Yet chess is still popular and people are still doing it.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing for me,
and the question I'm asking is not whether AI will remove meaning. It's more like, forget about, we could strip AI out of it completely. I'm just curious, how you guys think about it, if you do.
So I think we've discussed it when I've been in this chair before, but the idea of the precautionary principle. So the precautionary principle is human beings have a very, 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 very good time at forecasting problems, but we have a very, very difficult time at forecasting the solutions that will come, because by definition, if we had the solution, therefore there'd be no problem. But you have all these billions of human beings that end up working on this problem. My inevitable thing is, and this is where I feel it's a bit of a straw man argument, if this AI is so intelligent that it's replaced us all, and it's this super god, it'll probably figure out how to give us meaning. You know what I mean? It feels that the argument is a little bit logically...
George believes that benevolence comes along with processing power.
Yeah, I wouldn't make that last statement myself. Yeah. I know some people, like the sort of extremes of techno-optimism, would say that. But, the point that Packy makes in his piece too, he's like, most of those arguments tend to at some point land on we're going to cure cancer. And it's well, at this point, he's like, there are 8.3 roughly billion people on the planet who are not going to die of cancer, at least not in the near term. And a lot of them are miserable. So it's it might solve for certain biotech and health tech, medical problems.
Could it not let us understand the brain and then figure out why these people are miserable? This is what I mean around.
Yeah,
I'm
this
not
is
even
what I- yeah,
suggesting
this-
this is going to be the case. There's just things that we can't even forecast.
I mean,
You've
I
done a
don't
wonderful. You've done a wonderful Bernie Sanders job of 2 or 3 times now not answering the question. How do you personally think about meaning?
I've said Scientology, but you didn't want to listen.
That's not me. That's Tim.
Yeah.
I've learned from over 1,000 podcast episodes that the easier you make your health routine, the more consistent you'll be. It's like golf, right? You want to keep it simple and not mix a bunch of pills. You want the eye of the tiger, not the DUI of the tiger. That's why I'm such a huge fan of AG1. One scoop contains 75 vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and whole food sourced ingredients in a single daily drink. And now they've taken it a step further with AG1 Next Gen, backed by 4 clinical trials. And in those trials, it was shown to fill common nutrient gaps, improve key nutrient levels in just 3 months, and increase healthy gut bacteria by 10 times, even in people who already eat well. Gone are the days of needing to buy a load of pills in the gym parking lot from some juiced bro in a Cybertruck. But if you're unsure about it, AG1's got a 90-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it every single day for 3 months, and if you do not like it, they will give you your money back. Right now, you can get a free AG1 welcome kit that includes a bottle of D3K2, an AG1 flavor sampler, and that 90-day money-back guarantee by going to the link in the description below, or heading to drinkag1.com/modernwisdom.
How do you guys do you guys think this is an active process in people's minds?
Meaning creation?
Yeah. Like, do people really think about it in that realm, or is it just a byproduct of existence in some sense?
I think if it were a natural byproduct of existence, I would just say, maybe you see this, maybe you don't. I mean, you guys all interact on the interwebs. The degree of apathy and nihilism and foreboding that I think is adjacent or overlapping with a creeping dread of meaninglessness in my audience over the last 5 years is fucking terrifying.
And do you think that AI is contributing to that?
I think that technology, and look, I'm not saying technology is a bad thing. Ever since our ancestors used some stick to fish out, a termite mound, it's I bet on technology. It's, I've lived in the Bay Area for almost 20 years, still very actively involved with different types of technology, but I do think that there is the equivalent of digital poison, and a lot of us are drip feeding it every day. So it's not necessarily AI. I think AI, like money, power, alcohol, psychedelics, it's an amplifier. It's an accelerant.
Well, certainly most people's relationship to technology now is negative. I don't know many people, perhaps except you, who have a above 80% positive interaction with technology. I was on the treadmill in the gym the other day, and I was looking at doing a little bit of boom scrolling on my phone, and I had a screen in front of me here, and then I had 5 screens here, and then another 5 screens there, and then there's a video wall that's got an advert here. And I'm like, dude, I'm supposed to be in the gym. And I'm trying to listen to a podcast. I'm trying to listen to a funny podcast that's just a safe space hang. I'm not supposed to be thinking, and I'm supposed to be tuned into this. And every single different screen had subtitles on. Some of them had adverts on. This one's My 600-Pound Life. That one's the news from New York City. This one's that. And I'm like, dude, I can't. I have to actively avoid screens. Now, even if I choose to go screen free. So yeah, I think most people's relationship to technology is proto-negative. So when they think about if this gets more, that is more of the negative, and it's already removed it from me a bit. I had a really interesting conversation with Nick Bostrom. So he did his second book, which is kind of like a spiritual sequel to Superintelligence. What if things go wrong? And then the next one was, what if things go right? Yeah. What are the problems of a solved world? And he had this really interesting example where he said, basically everything that we value in other humans can be refined down to the fact that you need to negotiate with a world that is scarce. Why do I like motivation in someone else? Why do I like discipline? Why do I like the ability to tell the truth? Why do I like prudence? Why do I like good judgment? Because you need those things to be able to navigate through a world which is going to apply pressure to you. And if you remove that, so many of the traits that we look for in other people, they may not be, that creates a strange weightlessness with all of the different values that we've tended to prefer for all of human history, because we've been negotiating with a world that's pushed up against us. And if we move that out of the way, then what does that mean? So yeah, I think, dude, I think the meaninglessness thing is great. George is infuriatingly optimistic, which means that these conversations with him are always if AI is that smart, why won't it be benevolent enough to fix our problems? That's kind of, I guess, your...
I'm not saying
if
that
if there had never been if the Transformer had never made the leap to the, I guess, GPT-3 or 4, the sort of social media and digital environment in and of itself, just with more of a linear growth rate as opposed to more exponential, still would be a problem, right?
It's just over a
So
longer
we
timeline.
like the AI conversation is just, it sucks up all the fucking oxygen in the room. Do you know what I mean? So it's like we can strip that out as a thought exercise, right? I mean, I'm curious how you would answer it. And I mean, look, this is something I've been thinking about a lot because my audience, but also for me, for like my family, and I've thought a lot about these debates that Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris have had, where Sam
First one was a fucking car crash. But
well, yeah, I mean, look, they've had car crashes, but one of the takeaways for me was like, can any meaningful critical mass of humans from like first principles develop a moral and value code for themselves that is secular, that is in any way gratifying, grounding, supportive in times of great duress? Like, I feel like Sam would be more on that side of things. And then Jordan's like, it's not going to happen, right? Like, that is why people need religion, because you have this out of the box certainty. And in a world of seemingly increasing incomprehensibility, right? Where there is this inability to separate fact from fiction, people need some type of foothold of certainty. And so, I mean, I think religion, I mean, it's I don't have to think it, it's already happening, but it's like huge resurgence in religion.
with Latin Mass as well, which
What's
is Latin Mass is one of the, if not the most ascendant attended religious services, and it's a service that's entirely done in a language that nobody in the audience speaks.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether what that's doing is it's almost bypassing people's ability to scrutinize it. Well, that's obviously not true, but no, well, you know, I can realize it's science.
Maybe they don't want to scrutinize it.
That's the point. That's what I think, that what they're doing is they're purposefully going, oh, maybe it's just that it feels more archaic, it's more steeped in history, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Maybe the music's better, I don't know. But yeah, I definitely get the sense that people are going to scrabble around to try and reverse from first principles.
Yeah.
How do I make myself feel good? But there is an interesting question, which is, if what we're bothered about is human flourishing, humans feeling good, why not have a comforting delusion? Let's say that it's delusion. I'm not saying that it is, but why not have a comforting delusion? Like, if the outcomes of religious people are more happiness, more meaning, they live longer, they've got better community, they've got better health, they've got
Suddenly seems very rational instead of irrational.
So this is what I learned from Alex O'Connor, and it is Richard Dawkins speaking to Ayaan Hirsi Ali on stage, and Ayaan was supposed to be the fifth horseman of the atheist apocalypse, but she couldn't make the meeting that day. And then Ayaan is on stage talking to Richard, and the audience is sort of half her fans and half Richard's. And she said, I wanted to take my own life not long ago. I was really low, and religion found me, Jesus found me, or Christianity found me, God found me. And after the lowest moment that I had, I'm really, really happy to say that my mental health's in a better place, and I'm religious.
Yeah.
And, you know, you get the sort of smattering of kind of like empathetic applause around the room. And Alex told me that Richard's almost immediate response was, yes, but do you really think that Jesus moved the stone out of the way on the third day of Aramea? And what you see is a guy who is playing a game of optimizing for rationality whilst ignoring effectiveness. And you go, how can you say that it's anything but a positive when this person's life essentially was saved by this thing? And it makes me, and this is one of the reasons I think that atheism's not cool at the moment, that it feels, in a world that's increasingly bereft of meaning, it feels like really sterile and quite judgmental and quite harsh. And it makes me, when I think about it, I'm like, it just doesn't seem very nice to me. And I'm aware, removing comforting delusions, why should you allow someone to indulge in their silly fantasy? I'm like, bro, I think we're getting toward the stage where comforting delusions are allowed, because if not, I don't know. So maybe it is Mormonism all along.
Do you guys, intellectuals oftentimes get in this territory where they try to use proof by counterexample? So that they'll try to find one counterexample in something that you're saying and then effectively void the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very common thing because this is what you do in a math setting or anything. And they tend to do that in kind of a religious setting as well. And it's like, that's not applicable here. Just because X is not true doesn't mean invalidates the rest of it. And this is why people tend to I think Richard Dawkins is like, religion is a pick and choose kind of buffet. You can go pick and believe in something.
He also did say that AI is sentient the other
with
day.
Claude, right?
Claudia.
How old's Richard though now?
70s.
I think as soon as anybody gets over 65, you've got to give them a little bit of
Leeway.
public breathing room. Yeah.
Why?
Have you been around anybody over 65?
Richard Dawkins.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was on stage with him. He said that he would consider trying psychedelics.
Oh,
I
wow.
managed to get him to admit to that. That was fun. But yeah,
What do you guys think of that? The Richard Dawkins play. I mean, if anybody would go around and figure out if there is sentience associated with AI, maybe Richard Dawkins might be an okay person to go and figure that out. I don't know how much you guys, but I'm curious to get your thoughts on what he discovered or how he discovered it.
Oh, it's way above my pay grade. I have no idea. I would need people to define sentience, and also whenever we get into sentience consciousness, I'm like, let's make, before we argue about what God does or doesn't like, let's define God similarly, right? I would just want to make sure I understand those terms, because once you get into like integrated information theory and all this stuff, it's very easy to like get into these weeds, and then you're like 30 pages into reading this, and I don't think anyone quite defined what the fuck
the same
they mean by
kind of
conscious.
true.
So I don't know. I don't actually know the context.
Yeah.
But I certainly have no strong position.
Same thing's kind of true with meaning, though. I've read Baumeister's paper on meaning, happiness, that kind of legendary one from 2010, I think it is. And hey, they're good, eh? The toothpaste.
I mean, they're very tasty. I don't know what's in them.
Have 15 milligrams of caffeine and some tasty shit.
Sorry if I'm completely off here.
What?
But part of me thinks that, well, again,
Here comes the optimism.
I hate to sound like I'm doing an affiliate link for the beginning of Infinity, which I am. I'll post it in the link. But problems are infinite. So even now is a great example. So AI, which is, first off, we're having this hypothetical conversation about this hypothetical thing, which I think could happen, but it's completely hypothetical. But assuming that hypothetical is true, we first have the problem of, well, if this AI is so smart, why can't it fix this? Because those two things seem paradoxical.
It would need to want to fix it.
Yeah, which again, which is a different question. But if it is so smart, why can't it fix it? Is the first point. The second point is, even now, are we not having quite a meaningful conversation about this problem? Is this not an example where this hypothetical AI has solved everything, yet it hasn't solved meaning, and we're now constantly talking about how we're going to get more meaning for human beings?
I don't think that the problem is necessarily that meaning would be impossible to access, but that if you make meaning harder to access, you end up with some pretty gnarly outcomes, in the same way as it's not impossible to eat healthily, but it is harder to not be fat in a calorie-dense, high-processed food environment. And if you make it a meaning oasis, it's sparser to get to meaning, then it makes life harder for everybody to find that.
Can I ask a dumb question?
Yeah. Is it how to open the toothpaste?
I was watching you to
Send him here.
back to the factory.
Here we go.
Also,
Let's talk to this co-packer.
Oh my God, amazing. I have another dumb question, which is, how do most people or normal people think about meaning? How do they define it? What is the underlying element of it?
I mean, the way that, I don't know if I'm normal. I'm probably pretty abnormal, but I do think that meaning may be the wrong term to use, because you can apply it to defining a term. You could apply it to, was this conversation meaningless or meaningful? Well, we talked about a bunch of stuff that is mutually intelligible. So sure, by definition it's meaningful, but I think we could say purpose, people feeling they have a purpose, right? There is a point to what they're doing or their life in general, right? Is sort of how I would think. I mean, that's if I had to put in a placeholder, that's what I would put in.
Western society always attributes, when you go to a party, what do you do, Tim? What do you do? This is a canonical question that people ask. It's like,
Oh, what do I do?
What do you do? Like,
Not what do you do at a party? What do you do when you're at a
Yeah, you know,
the cocktail party question.
the cocktail party question. I tend to try to not ask this question anymore, but I used to. And it's always funny
Trade
how
heroin on the dark web is usually
there
my
you go.
answer.
I mean, that would be a good.
Just to
That would
cover
be
up
an
what he really
amazing
does.
great combo.
They're like, oh, okay.
It's better than saying podcast.
Yeah, but like that is so
Highest
Pretty
status.
similar, actually. It's a job.
the attribute of Western society to a certain extent, with all the focus on productivity and looking at your calendar and managing your time, and sort of going from meeting to meeting to meeting, and then having a full schedule and organizing, a meetup 1 month later with your friends and putting it on the calendar. It's so like fascinating because effectively a lot of people treat it as allocating time.
Mm-hmm.
And if they allocate time, that's what kind of where people are trying to do. And oftentimes, going back to this, the reason why I ask what you do is a lot of the meaning elements for individuals is tied to their craft,
Mm-hmm.
their job, their sort of livelihood.
Is it possible to have meaning without resistance? Because I was thinking about the chess example that you were talking about, but part of the reason that the game of chess is meaningful is that you're meeting resistance, even if the resistance is of another player and not the best player in the world, that would be a computer.
Yeah.
But part of that requires some sort of friction in the system.
Absolutely. Yes.
There's very few things that I can think of that are meaningful that are also totally frictionless, or
Yeah.
there is no challenge in it.
Going back to this, like, think about relationships. We made access to relationships kind of less friction than ever. You get a catalog of individuals, browse through, find the next person, on to the next. Wow. I mean, you've created a sort of an abundant layer on what was previously scarce.
Mm-hmm.
And
Then you have Grindr, which is post-abundance.
post-abundance. Yeah, there you go. Have you guys heard about sniffies?
Yeah. No. What's
What?
sniffies?
It's like a new gay anonymous sex app.
Okay.
Okay.
How are they innovating on Grindr?
Tell us
What went wrong?
Well,
Yeah,
this is what I know because I have some friends.
What were they serving? What were they serving that the Grindr app wasn't?
How do you
That's what I
spell
want
that,
to
by the
know.
way? Is it S?
That's exactly what you.
I've got to end this podcast.
Match group just
Both
put in,
phones ping. Beep. Oh, wait a second. Hold on.
Match group just put in $100 million into the app, and it's growing like crazy.
People don't talk about the I used to have this thing that if one of the reasons why it was never discussed in Parliament or never discussed in Congress was who owns Pornhub? What's the name of the company? Is it MindGeek?
Yeah, Canadian company.
MindGeek had, whilst the Congress was talking about the monopoly that Google had, that Meta had, MindGeek had the most absurd monopoly of the
80% or
pornography
something,
industry, which you'd argue there's a free market solution that OnlyFans came along, and good old OnlyFans fixing the market.
Democratizing porn.
But another example is the dating apps. If you look at who owns all the dating apps, I'm pretty
Match.com have
sure
got a bunch.
Match. I'm pretty sure they own Match, Tinder, Hinge. I don't know if they
Pretty
now
much
own Bumble
everything.
as well.
No, Bumble's public.
Bumble's
Okay, so
separate.
Bumble's separate.
Raya maybe.
Raya's separate too.
Right.
Match Group owns everything except for Raya and Bumble,
But
roughly.
it's crazy that they're allowed such a monopoly on what is now modern dating, and nobody discusses it because it's sort of icky
see,
to
it's
discuss.
It's hard to define. The market's so difficult to define in some
Those
sense.
apps are also really struggling. There's been a massive downturn on all
You
those
see
apps.
what Whitney Wolf
And-
Hurd's been saying recently, that
Oh, yeah.
Bumble is going to have my AI avatar date your AI avatar, and then it'll
100%.
feed that back up.
Did you see there was an interview she just did like last week or whatever, and she's like, this is the end of the swipe era, and Bumble's introducing this sort of AI matchmaker or whatever.
Jared, have you ever considered that you might have a drinking problem?
I don't consider a lot, Chris,
Well, you drank an entire case of Athletic Brewing Co. last night,
but they're non-alcoholic.
and that's not a problem?
Sorry, man. I just kept chugging, waiting for the regret to creep in. Never happened.
See, most people, like Jared, don't want to change what they drink. They just don't want the next day to be a complete write-off. And that is why I'm such a huge fan of Athletic Brewing Co. They make the best NA brews on the planet. You can find Athletic Brewing Co.'s best-selling lineup at grocery or liquor stores near you, or, best option, get a full variety pack of 4 flavors shipped direct to your door. Right now, get 15% off your first online order by going to the link in the description below or heading to athleticbrewing.com/modernwisdom and using the code modernwisdom at checkout. That's athleticbrewing.com/modernwisdom and modernwisdom at checkout. Near beer terms and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times.
Bottoms up.
But going back to your point, Chris, which was the idea, the capitalism removes friction, right? Like the idea is that you have this invisible layer in society, sort of, that is fixing supply and demand such that there's this equilibrium at all times. And turns out that reduces friction because accessibility. I mean, DoorDash, you can like, I can get an Amazon delivery in 15, 30 minutes or whatever.
You got a fancy dress outfit in less than an hour yesterday.
Yeah, because that's what I do on a Sunday.
Needed a costume. Yeah,
Right. It's one of these new apps.
I mean, it was remarkable.
I need a furry with a cape.
and then went straight onto Whistler or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I was in like a Carmel, and I didn't have a bathing suit because people were going in the pool or whatever. It was like, oh, I can just DoorDash it in 30 minutes. And somebody will bring me a bathing suit because I didn't have and that's remarkable. And I think going back to this, it's like, yeah, obviously I think it reduces value of things when the friction goes down.
I do think a great example is Winston Churchill. I posted this the other day. Churchill's biography is so good. Like you go, Jesus Christ, did this man?
Which one?
The big, I think it's Andrew Roberts' Churchill biography. First off, Jared, could you pull it up? How many times Winston Churchill nearly died? He outbeats a cat. Like the number of, I think he almost drowns. He gets
What's the
run over.
terminal velocity of
floors.
Winston Churchill?
Yeah. He gets ran over. But Churchill used to, and famously a sufferer of depression, as he called it, the black dog. He used to he used to lay 200 bricks per day for a significant period of his life just to keep himself busy.
What was he building with those 200 bricks?
Apparently he wasn't actually that good. So the stories that the actual
shit
bricklayers
wall.
came in afterwards, but he would always do, yeah, you can have a look. So here we go. Like, yeah, he battlefield dangers in Cuba, India, Sudan and South Africa, escaped from he escaped from the Boer prisoner of war camp.
Wow.
Frontline combat in World War I, got hit by a car.
Believed he was preserved for a purpose.
Yeah.
Felt he was walking with destiny.
Well, Winston Churchill famously said when he was I believe a teenager, that I will save Western civilization, which is up there with John D. Rockefeller saying, I will become the richest man ever to exist. Called their shots. But for every Churchill, for every Rockefeller, there's 1,000 dickheads.
Massive
Who
survival.
are in Newcastle right now.
All right, so I got in trouble, speaking of the UK, I got in trouble for comparing the UK to where it would rank if it was a state. And I thought that this was a relatively innocuous thing to say because me and George have both shit on the UK quite a bit. You know, you're allowed to. You're allowed to. As immigrants, having moved from your own country, you're allowed to sort of cast a spur. Well, this is why I left, so to speak. We were the second in the world in millionaire exits not long ago, second only to China, who's got, like 30 times the population or something. So I decided to post this chart. And this chart explains if the UK was a state, where it would rank on the list. Here it is. If the UK were a US state, where would it rank among 50 states? So life expectancy, first. Lowest homicide rate, first. Lowest gun deaths, first. Lowest prisoner population, first. Healthcare coverage, first. Paid maternity leave, first.
A lot of high numbers.
Statutory paid holiday, first. Years in education, first. Lowest road deaths, first. Lowest drug deaths, second. Minimum wage, third. Pupil performance, fifth. Environmental performance, fifth. Human Development Index, ninth. Lowest obesity, 10th. And GDP per capita, 51st.
What do you attribute that to?
Well, I mean,
The 51st.
The fact that it's 51st, the fact that the US just absolutely rules when it comes to capitalism. You guys are like Floyd Mayweather of capitalism.
Would most countries, I know that the UK is not Europe, Brexit is Brexit, but like would countries in Western Europe also look like this in terms of GDP per capita? Probably, right?
Yeah. I would guess so. Well, I mean, what people on the internet got mad at me for is, well, these are stupid things to judge. Obviously, you've got the lowest gun deaths because you cucks gave up your guns. The paid maternity leave doesn't matter when the statutory paid holiday is pointless because the level of productivity. The road deaths are because you don't have big enough roads or something. The drug deaths don't matter because you've got no cool drugs. The minimum, there was basically an American excuse for every single one of these. Even the lowest obesity. And I was like, it was just surprising to me because for the most part, British people are very prepared to laugh at Britain. Very prepared to point, and
Very British thing.
I've done entire episodes on this is what's wrong, and this is what's wrong, and this is what's wrong, and this is what's wrong. But as soon as you begin to compare the US to the UK, and in some areas, because the whole joke here is that there's lots of things that we're ranking better than the US in, apart from one of the most important things, which is how much fucking money we make. And yeah, they're selective, but
Sing it.
huh?
You can sing it if you want.
Sing what?
God save our gracious King. God save our...
Right. So I just got in a lot of shit and I was surprised. I thought that Americans would be able to take this with a bit more humility.
I do tend to think the Americans...
Also, humility first.
Yeah.
But yeah, lowest drug deaths is, I mean, like Wyoming.
Do you think America will
imagine?
be lowest obesity at some point very soon? With the advent of GLPs and...
They're going to be, I saw this thing the other day that retatrutide is going to be one of the most successful drugs in history.
For sure.
Like one of the most widely used drugs.
Scott Galloway has the idea. He says America's the best place to earn money and Europe's the best place to spend money.
Yeah. Well, the UK is a wonderful country to be poor in and a horrible country to be rich in. And America's a great country to be rich in and a horrible country to be poor in.
Which is kind of interesting. If the if the value of the dollar goes up, it's like American productivity, GDP or whatever goes up, then it's Americans will go and spend it to Europe, right? And get the best value for the bang for the buck, or if you will.
Yeah. I do think the UK is the greatest, the country of all time. I do think that's like a fact. But America's going through its golden age right now.
We're living on borrowed time, mate. You know my position on this. I think that we're living on borrowed time. And this is seen nowhere more clearly than the countries with the most arrests for posting on social media in 2023. United Kingdom, 12,183, coming in at nearly double second place, which was Belarus with 6,205, and Russia is down with 400, China with 1,500. Might be some reporting problems in a couple of those countries. But that number, which is from the Times, it was a Times...
The Ministry
What a great
of Social Enforcement isn't returning
What
their
a great
emails.
group to be part of.
Dude, 12,000 arrests for posting on social media in 2023. And that number's from the Times with Freedom House stats. So that's legit. 12,183. And that was one of the most common. How many people... where would you rank if it was the number of people that have been... And I'm like, also first, actually. So...
Yeah, we have made some mistakes over the years. Alan Turing,
Yeah.
Oscar Wilde.
Yeah.
Not good. We
Yeah.
don't treat our gays well.
No.
We haven't.
Alan Carr's pretty good. Got a new
Alan
TV
Carr's
show.
treated well. Yeah. Douglas Murray treated relatively well.
Yeah. I had this because I find now that every time you bring up some negative about the UK, I've got to bring up something positive to counteract it.
Yeah.
Like the angel and the devil, or the northeast and the northwest, which is, I was back home in London, central London, and I was walking around these beautiful buildings in London, and I used to live in a house that's older than America. And some of the architecture that exists in the UK, like New York has some quite, like the New York City Library is beautiful. It feels like you guys have stolen that from us. And even the Statue of Liberty is from France, right? But like a lot of the architecture in the US, my friend summarized it great, which is everything looks like the back entrance. So even the front looks like what would be the back entrance.
Wow.
And I feel as a Brit being in America, like my parents have the most beautiful place in the world, and I'm around this mess of a house where the people are just, it's a lot more functional right now. But the UK the architecture is stunning. And you don't make buildings like that
We're
anymore.
really grasping at fucking straws, though, when we're talking about the
Big Ben.
architecture. Big Ben's good. Big Ben's good.
That's the difference between the US and the UK, is that it feels that everything in the US has, or a lot of things in the US, I shall fix, has a functional name. So I was like, why is it called Joshua Tree? It's like, oh, it's because it has a lot of Joshua trees. Or like, you have 10th Street. I go, why is it 10th Street? Because it's next to 9th Street and before 11th Street. Whereas Big Ben, nobody really knows why it's called Big Ben. We think it was after some bloke called Ben, but it's not actually been
the
clarified.
bell, right? The Big Ben is it's not the actual clock, it's the bell that's inside of it, I think.
Have a look, because I remember I went down
Why
a
is
Big
Big
Ben
Ben
rabbit
called
hole
Big
and I
Ben?
couldn't find it out, yeah.
It's remarkable how, if you think about it in the grander scheme of things, how young America is. It's like, what is it, like a teenager, maybe less or something, with respect to civilization or modern civilization. And turns out everything is kind of, whereas if you were to create a blank slate of a country and now use the best of whatever exists and maybe try
This is
to
kind of
recreate
what
it.
Dubai's done, right? In a way, like you think about Dubai from an infrastructure standpoint, it's just totally like,
Artificial.
yeah, it's absolutely just plowed its way through the desert and said, how do we want to have our roads? How do we want to have our downtown? I know that there's lots of road accidents that you said. I wasn't aware of this, but if you're driving in Dubai, you can be doing 70 miles an hour and looking at Google Maps and you're 3 minutes from your destination, which is in the middle of a built-up
Right.
area. You're just like pounding it and then you peel off on this perfectly modern designed flyover and then you're deposited outside of the fountains at the bottom of the Burj or whatever. So that's kind of interesting.
Whereas if you drive in London, it will take you like 30 minutes. to just go,
London's okay, but I mean, once you've been to LA, everything feels
totally.
fucking unbelievable.
Well, I mean, you and I have chatted about this before, but I'm just increasingly bullish on neuromodulation, brain stimulation. And there was a piece in the New York Times. Could at-home brain stimulation reduce psychiatry's reliance on SSRIs? And I think part of the framing challenge around, and just to define terms here. So brain stimulation in this particular case, I believe in that New York Times piece is referring to something called TDCS, where you can basically use, I think it's TDCS, where you can basically use a 9-volt battery. It's a headset that you can wear at home, and it's intended to treat depressive disorder. And then you have other types of neuromodulation, and I use that term because you might not be stimulating, you might not be exciting something, you might be inhibiting something. Mm-hmm. So that would include TMS, which I've spent a lot of time with, so transcranial magnetic stimulation. So you're using magnets with different targets depending on what you're trying to do. And I think those are just, it's the it's the Model T of what's coming with neuromodulation. And I think there's going to be a lot of acceleration in the next 2 years. I think it's going to move a lot faster than people expect.
How does it work?
Well, so for instance, you might have, in say my case, right? So what I figured out, it took me my whole life to figure it out, but a few years ago, is that even though I had kind of been diagnosed myself prior to that as someone with some type of depressive disorder, I think that it was a combination of a few things. Number one was Lyme disease, which is like very much multiple times verified real Lyme disease, not like chronic fatigue masquerading as Lyme disease, from Long Island, which is, if you look at the CDC map, the Center for Disease Control, it is like
bullseye.
The bullseye outbreak, pun intended, because you sometimes get a rash that looks like a bullseye. But I think that a lot of psychiatric conditions are downstream of acute infections that then led to chronic neuroinflammation. That's taking us a little further afield from the point I was going to make, which is you can use these magnetic pulses in the case of something like accelerated TMS. And in my case, I realized that it was actually anxiety and rumination. So a combination, the DSM constantly changes in terms of how you diagnose these things. Psychiatry is kind of where surgery was like 300 years ago, I would say, right? It's very early days. But if I do an fMRI, right, so you're getting this imaging of the brain, you identify targets for, say, anxiety, like angiosomatic target, you can inhibit or excite, depending on what you're trying to do, a target with these magnetic pulses. Intermittent theta bursts is what it's called. And it just feels like a light tapping on your head. That's it. It's very tolerable. And in my case, you might do, for instance, in the latest round of what I've done, take something, it's a drug. So you take a neuroplasticity agent beforehand. And there are a lot of things that can increase neuroplasticity, but in this case, it's a somewhat antiquated, maybe, antibiotic called D-cycloserine. So you stick it in your mouth, you let it dissolve for an hour before the stims, and then you're doing 3 minutes on the hour, or maybe even every half hour, for 10 stims. And that's it. And I got 3 to 4 months of going from, say, a 8 or 9 out of like generalized anxiety and just OCD rumination to like a 0 or a 1.
Wow.
Different people. I mean, those are 2 different lived experiences.
Yeah.
And
then after 3 or 4 months, it
starts to creep back in,
Yep.
and then you can go get, say, a booster of some type. And I know people with depression specifically, there's a lot more data on depression of different types who basically similarly got taken from like, I can't move, I'm at home. Some people are cutting, and they go from like, again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving medical advice, and these are anecdotes, but there are also published studies people can look into. There's a great scientist named Jonathan Downer, unfortunate name for someone working with someone in depression, but amazing scientist, Downar. People can look him up. I think he's at the University of Toronto. And you see durability in some people, including the son of a friend of mine, 18 months. So instead of 3 to 4 months, you get like 18 months. And so you start to wonder, it's like, all right, if we look at, let's just say SSRIs, which are miraculous for some people, but the general chemical imbalance theory of depression or anxiety is pretty much thoroughly debunked at this point, right? You're not depressed because you have low serotonin levels, by and large. And when you take pharmaceuticals, I'm sure it's true with GLP-1s. I don't think there's very rarely a biological free lunch, but let's put that aside. With psychiatric medications, typically you have off-target effects, right? They're going to be side effects. They could be sexual dysfunction. They could be whatever. They're weight gain. There are a million different options. And often they stop working, or people don't need them anymore, and then there's no plan for deprescribing and off-ramping these people. So they just stay on forever, right? So the idea that you could use electricity is super, super, super interesting. And I think I'm hopeful that it will displace a lot of the blunt instrument approach to using overprescription. We'll see. I mean, it's going to take a lot of tech innovation, which in this case, AI, go Team AI, is going to accelerate things a lot. It's certainly already seeing it.
At like a personal level, what's it like going from, did you say a 9 to a 1?
Yeah, like an 8 or 9 to a 1.
What's that like? As like a felt experience?
Insomnia, gone, right? Like instead of taking 30 to 60 minutes to fall asleep, like lay down 5 minutes later, I'm asleep without any sleep medication. I mean, that alone is just, it's impossible to overstate the effect that has on your daily life every day, right? Easier to get over just kind of the scrapes and bruises of life, right? Little issues. You basically, for me, it was like, I find it very useful. Like if I'm using the toolkit of stoicism or mindfulness or whatever, like it's a fucking struggle, right? It's not native to my constitution. But after this, like, oh wow, suddenly I can meditate for 20 minutes and I feel like I've been doing it for years, as opposed to constantly like slapping my monkey mind on the wrist, right? So really tremendous. And I what we will see is that you can also use it. This is not that controversial, but for performance enhancement, right? Like you can, I believe you can affect like handedness, trait hypnotizability. Like you can, and it's not risk-free, but compared to a lot of the medications that you might give people for these conditions, the risk profile is pretty good.
It's interesting that you can have an intervention that makes other interventions more effective. So if you can do some sort of TMS thing and that makes your trait hypnotizability more, that means that you've now opened up the world of hypnotism.
Yeah, you're exactly. So you're choosing the right domino to tip over first, right? And I mean,
it's not the time to get into a porn habit then. Straight after this, God damn it! I just locked this in.
I mean, it brings
Whistler or Tickler or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Tickler. Also a good podcast.
This podcast is sponsored by Tickler.
When I sit down for a good wank on Pornhub with my athletic brew,
I
brewing company,
Tickler.
Do you want a man to come around in 2 minutes?
Man on man. Life and Times, Chris. A lot of what I think about is just sequencing, right? Like there's a lot of stuff out there off the rack that works kind of, right? But if you figure out the right sequence, like you can suddenly, it's true with language acquisition too. Like where most of the mistakes are made, I think, is in the sequencing. When you just fix the sequencing, you shuffle things a little bit, you put the right domino in front, and it makes a huge difference. Like, and also this is true with like psychedelics in the sense that like Gould Dolan, who's at UC Berkeley, she used to be at Hopkins, but her sort of framework of reopening critical windows with the use of psychedelics is very interesting. So, and underground facilitators have known this for a long time, but it's like the 2 or 3 weeks after a psychedelic, which in this case would include MDMA, although that's a longer conversation, you have the ability, and this could extend to, say, stroke patients who are trying to relearn motor control or speaking, things that typically is limited to a very short, relatively short window as a child, right? You can basically reopen the malleability to develop those things using these drugs in the subsequent 2 to 3 weeks. So, for instance, if you've just done a bunch of psychedelics, maybe a very bad time to suddenly do a bunch of overdosing on porn and sort of instilling habits that you would otherwise maybe come and go, but in this case could really stick. Like your Play-Doh has been warmed up in the microwave, so you want to be careful about those 2 or 3 weeks afterwards. I think that could also apply to TMS potentially.
Well, I did a 2-sided SGB at the start of this year, and the same thing was true for that.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, you've got a window here where your nervous system is unusually absorbent.
Yeah.
So treat it with appropriate care.
Yeah.
That was wild though, that SGB that I had.
You should explain what that is, maybe.
A stellate ganglion block. So there is a bundle of nerves on both sides of your neck that are essentially running to the rest of your nervous system, and you can get an ultrasound guided anesthetic injection that goes into it, and it essentially shakes the etch-a-sketch of your nervous system. A way to think about it. It is a relatively hard reset, and you do one side and then you do another. You can't do them both together because it actually makes half of your face and half of your throat go to sleep. So if you were to do both, I think that you might die. You certainly wouldn't be able to swallow. You can't do much stuff.
Sounds
but like
problematic.
you end up with one side of your eye is sort of eyelids half closed, and speaking's a little bit difficult. Anyway, I did one side one day, one side on the other with Matt Cook at BioReset, who's kind of the number one in America for this. And it was fascinating, really, really fascinating experience.
Would you do it again?
I would, yes.
What were the benefits?
It was an interesting slate clean of some nervous system buildup. So just agitations, the sort of ambient buzzing that you often have, rumination reduced. It was very interesting, but I think the thing that's always fascinating to me, because you've got a felt sense of how this thing impacted you, and because our felt sense is so subject to, did I sleep well? Am I in a good place with this person? Have I got how's business going? What's happening in my life? But when you see it in data too, and because I track everything with Whoop, it was a 30% increase in HRV.
I was going to ask you about HRV.
The 30% increase in HRV overnight, and that held for, I'm 3-4 months now after it started to tickle back down now. But that held for a long time. And resting heart rate also did the same, not quite as much. But it was basically a 30% change in HRV, and that stuck about for a while. And they do this. It's a one-stop shop for PTSD in soldiers. It's a really aggressive intervention for guys that are like super, super, super struggling. And it just gives you a little bit more room to breathe. And I was interested in it. And I trust Matt, the guy that did it. So I was like, okay. You mentioned before risks. With the TMS type stuff, what are some of the risks?
Generally very low. I would say that, again, not a PhD or doctor. Don't play one on the internet. So do your homework, talk to your professionals. But my understanding is that, I can give you my personal example, right? Occasionally, in the case with my target, with my brain, after the treatment, you can have what's almost like a rebound exaggeration of symptoms for a short period of time, which is pretty unpleasant, where you might have insomnia for a few days, which I did. I've had that twice.
And you've done this twice?
No, I've done it probably 5 or 6 times. And it has not worked 100% of the time, which is very frustrating. It's part of the reason why I'm supporting a nascent brain stimulation lab here at UT Austin, getting involved with a couple of the companies because I want to, like, I actually know these machines and I've talked to the technicians and I've talked to the scientists and I'm like, I can actually be very, I think, helpful here. So I'm hoping to figure out how you can make that much more reliable. It's also just pure self-interest, right? I want to be able to use this. And I also want to figure out how to get durability out further, right? Instead of 3 to 4 months, it's like, look, if it's 1 day every quarter, like, and it goes from a 9 to a 1, fantastic. But if it only works once out of every 4 shots, then that sucks. In a lot of respects. So some of the side effects, the insomnia that I mentioned, in very, very rare cases, people will get temporary tinnitus. They'll get like a ringing. These are all pretty uncommon. And I should say that using this for generalized anxiety disorder, OCD, et cetera, is very much tip of the spear stuff. So the sample size is not very large. With the depression, there's much more data. And you can go on PubMed or elsewhere. Consensus.app is another decent option if you want like an AI interface. And look at the published papers. They're right there for you. If you are like smacking down your sympathetic nervous system, okay, this is the perfect place to talk about this on a large podcast. After my first effective TMS treatment, the first one that worked, I could not ejaculate for like 2 weeks and I fucking lost it. You can imagine. I'm just like, I'm like, is this a good news, bad news situation? Like, yeah, good news. You're not as anxious. Bad news. You're never going to ejaculate again. I was like, what the fuck? And the doctor's like, yeah, we've never seen that before. And I was like, oh, fantastic. But eventually, mechanistically, he was like, it could be a dosing problem where we dialed down the volume on your sympathetic nervous system too much
because it's parasympathetic to get erect, sympathetic to come.
Yeah, they say point and shoot. Parasympathetic, sympathetic. Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, maybe we try a lower dose, which I think is part of the reason why it didn't work for me because I was like, hey, if that was at the time, that was 5 days. And I was like, I really didn't enjoy those 2 weeks. So let's try.
How much are you trying to come?
Let's try 2 days. I'm a big fan of ejaculating. You know.
Sounds like we found the title.
Yeah. You need to get on Whistler.
So I need to get
Tickler.
Sniffies.
Yeah. My podcast is accepting sponsors. Tickler. So then I tried 2 days, nothing. Right. Then I tried 3 days. A few months later,
increasing
nothing.
The dose.
Right. And then eventually got back to 5 days, still nothing. But then went back to adding the D-cycloserine, this plasticity agent beforehand. 1 day, boom. And I was like, okay.
Boom.
Now that is when I became much more, it's just called 1 day protocol. And Jonathan Downer, who I mentioned, is one of the, if not the sort of innovator in the space behind that, along with Don Vaughn and some other people. But that 1 day when that worked, I was like, now this is interesting because currently the insurers are slowly coming around, but all this stuff, a lot of innovation starts with people with money spending way too much money.
Correct.
Right? That's just the way it is, right? That's true with electric cars. It's true with Uber. It's true with a million different, the early generation iPhones, right? Didn't even have to copy and paste. Are you fucking kidding me, right? These early adopters who have money and they're willing to spend it, like the accelerated TMS protocol, some of the early rounds that I did, it's like all in 30 grand out of pocket. I mean, it's expensive. And when it got down to 1 day, I was like, okay, now it's about reducing sort of unit cost and increasing throughput with these devices, because putting aside the out of pocket cost, a lot of people, they cannot take 5 days off of work to do this. But once you get it to 1 day, now I'm like, okay, that just went from a very small sort of addressable patient population to a much larger. It's still too expensive, but let's try to work on getting it down. And that's just TMS, right? You have other things like focused ultrasound that might be interesting for different types of addiction, for instance, where you could actually get enough penetration that you could hit the nucleus accumbens and other anatomical structures associated with chemical dependence. And it's like, okay, this is very, very, very interesting.
Who's the best company in America for this at the moment?
I mean, there are a couple of really good ones. The two older ones are that have the most kind of time on the market are Brainsway, which is out of Israel, very good machines.
Of course it is.
It's a publicly traded company. In full disclosure, I invested in them when they were a public traded company. Mag Venture has a device as well, which I've used. And then the company that I'm involved with is called AMPA, and that is the smallest form factor, and the people behind it developed the 1 Day protocol. And I think their sort of the trainability of that device, instead of taking weeks, let's just say, to train a technician properly, you can do it in a few hours. And it's something that fits in the trunk of a car, like a Corolla, as opposed to being the size of a refrigerator. And I think they're really, otherwise I wouldn't be involved, very well positioned to finally scale this treatment to millions of people instead of like a few thousand. So those, like all three of those are on the market. And the lowest cost would certainly be AMPA, but all these devices,
AMPER?
AMPA, AMPA Health.
Okay.
And we'll see. I mean, not just because I'm involved, because it took me a long time. I did a fuck ton of due diligence. I don't think a lot of folks don't realize like how much due diligence I do before I put something in my newsletter or whatever. It's like, I guess this is OCD like harnessed when I am in full throttle.
Being used very well. Being friends with you is highly useful in situations like this. In the same way, I went to go and get LASIK in the UK. Ali Abdaal, productivity dude, British guy, is a doctor, right? Was an MD or the equivalent of an MD, GP in the UK. And I knew that he'd got LASIK. And I was like, no one's done more research about who's the best obstetrician operator in all of the UK. Messaged Ali and he's like, yeah, I spent 3 weeks speaking to all of my friends and doing all of the reviews and looking at the particular machines. I was like, okay, who was that? And he introduced me, and it's funny. I mean, this is good. I just get to speed run all of the work that you did.
Canary down the mine.
I'm the end of the guy in the human centipede, but I'm benefiting.
You want to be first in line.
No, I'm at the end, but it gets better progressively as it goes through.
Yeah,
that's cool, man. I'm glad that it's helped. It's exciting.
It is exciting. I think it's saying something when, as somebody who's been so active in funding the science related to psychedelics and psychedelic-assisted therapy since 2015, that in the last 3 years I've done almost no psychedelics. It's been purely focused on the neuromodulation. I think it's that important. We'll see, because for a lot of people, like psychedelics are nuclear power for the psyche. Like they are not suitable for all people. There are plenty of people I would carve out for exclusion from.
Many times you end up with a Chernobyl or a Fukushima.
Yeah, it's a lot squirrelier. It is. You need to be really careful with that stuff. And
as opposed to just not being able to come.
It has its place. Yeah.
Can I zoom in more on this?
Yeah.
What was that like at the end of a few weeks? 'Cause you said you went from a 9 to a 1. Did you hit a -7?
No, I didn't. I mean, I was
fantastic for the girlfriend.
I was pretty
Fukushima.
Yeah, I was pretty. I was understandably concerned.
Had you have known that it was going to end after 2 weeks, presumably you would have just been. The fear was this is going to be forever.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So now,
but you couldn't feel the anxiety.
No, but interestingly, for like every time it has worked for me, I've had that side effect. But now I know that there's an endpoint, so I don't freak out, and it's fine.
You just know that you're going to get a couple of really good weeks where you're kind of like a stallion. Like, babe, I can just. Don't worry about me.
How do you, I had a question for you. On the other side of the spectrum, have you seen these devices that stimulate your vagus nerve or whatever?
Yeah, I know a lot. I know a lot about them.
What are your thoughts on those? Like,
most of them are bunk.
Are they?
Yeah. There's a scientist, you might want to have him on at some point. He's incredible, named Kevin Tracy. He is the most credible. He wrote a book called The Great Nerve. He's the most credible, publicly... not really educating scientist, credible, very highly published scientist who talks about this. Most of the non-invasive vagus nerve stimulators, or that are purported to be vagus nerve stimulators don't actually hit it the right way. And there's neck based, right? And then there's ear based. The neck TBD, but they've been cleared, FDA cleared for, I think it's either migraines or cluster headaches.
Yeah.
Some people seem to benefit. I had a friend who tripled his HRV using a neck-based device. I think it was either Truvaga or it was the prescription equivalent of Truvaga. And it worked really well for him. This can be pretty...
I haven't used them. I had a friend I was talking to. I suffer from migraines.
Yeah.
And so I have to carry around medication all the time.
Yeah.
And somebody told me about these things, and they were like, okay, it has all these benefits of like HRV, increase of HRV, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a temporary state, if you will, but ultimately...
You should use it daily. It's like a few minutes in the morning, a few minutes at night.
Yeah, it's kind of reset the nervous system. That's kind of the marketing terminology that they've been utilizing.
Yeah, I mean, really, what it's doing is it's stimulating the vagus nerve, which is really like two transatlantic cables on either side. It's like roughly 100,000 fibers on either side. And
so
then it innervates everything, just
Hmm.
about organs, GI tract, etc. And when you stimulate it, you can, I guess the right way to put it, activate isn't quite right, but something called the inflammatory reflex. And so it can be applied to things like rheumatoid arthritis, different autoimmune disorders, can be applied to something like asthma attacks. It's very, very, very interesting. So it could be worth looking into for you, right? The neck-based devices tend to also activate the superficial muscles of the face. So it pulls your face down.
Depends how high you turn it up.
Yeah, it depends on how high you turn it up, but it can be a little uncomfortable.
Interesting.
The ear-based devices...
Have you used it? You say you've used it?
No, somebody recommended me the ear-based device. and
Most
they
of
were
the
like,
ear-based devices are not actually in the right place.
Got it.
It needs to be very, very, very precise. It's called the Simba concha. It's going to be hard to see. It's right here, kind of where this fold is. It's at the bottom of that inside, like right there. Most of the devices being sold on the market, including devices that have lots of fancy names and lots of fancy institutions on the website, they're not in the right place. And
There's a fucking shit ton of money behind some of those companies.
Yeah, very few fibers make it to the ear.
Got it.
I've got a couple of things. I had a few things sent to me. I had one that's a handheld device with the 2-prong, and you can kind of just stick it on like you want to.
Just tase yourself.
Yeah, like that. And then there's a pair of headphones that have a lug that comes down and sits here. And obviously that one's way more convenient. But there's some weird stuff with that. You've got to lubricate the end of the adapter because it needs to be able to have quite a smooth surface to be able to, so you have to change Whistler, you have to change the little heads out on this thing and put that in. I didn't do it consistently enough to be able to say whether or not it was effective.
Yeah, I think for migraines, it's worth looking into.
What's your migraine manifestation? Do you have aura with it?
Oh my God, yeah.
Which one?
What do you mean, which one?
Olfactory, visual?
It's visual.
Visual.
And it'll come on, and I've had these since I was 5 years old, and people are like, what the fuck is going on? I didn't even know. And yeah, you get these auras. It's like almost as you're on like an acid trip, and everything just looks blurry, but
blotchy,
moving in a weird way. And then after a while, if you don't take medication during that period,
then it kicks in.
What
do you take? Nurtec?
Sumatriptan.
Has one just kicked in?
Yep.
Oh fuck! I'm so sorry.
It's no, it's all good. I don't even know. I think I typically track it with it's either lighting.
Yep.
Maybe. It's environmental, like weather changes, weirdly enough, or the last element of it is either I have caffeine or wine without any food.
Right.
And it's really fascinating. Is they ask you to keep a diary of your day and to figure out retroactively what caused it.
Yep.
There's no other mechanic, and it's so people don't know why. People don't know for what reason. Some people think it's autoimmune. Some people think it's not. And it's a fascinating. So I have to carry medication all the time.
Yep.
And I was recommended this.
Yeah. So the prescription version of Truvaga, spelled Truvaga, is called GammaCore.
Got it.
GAMMACORE, is FDA cleared in the U.S. for both acute treatment of migraine pain in adults and prevention of migraine, episodic and chronic. A few practical points. The effect evidence is real, but modest compared to top-tier migraine medications like CGRP inhibitors. Appears to work best for people who treat attacks early, migraine with aura, patients who want to reduce medication use, those who can't tolerate triptans and CGRPs. Right.
Speaking of those devices, by the way, have you guys seen there's some companies that are being, now that they're sort of reinvention of input into computers. So for example, less keyboards, more voice, more like natural types of interactions with technology and devices in general. There are these devices that are coming out. One of my friends demoed this to me. I think Apple just acquired a company where you just put sort of a small device that listens in this sort of region, and without you actually saying anything, it can detect, as if you were talking.
Makes sense.
Roughly, it's remarkable, and you can imagine a lot of scenarios with this as technology and the input layers become much more natural, much more conversational, and you don't have these affordances to speak all the time. Where imagine that device can effectively read what you want to say without you ever having to say it.
Yeah.
And it lives roughly in this region, can detect all these
Any
muscles.
idea why it's sat there to detect? Is it as if you're moving your mouth but not talking?
I'm not sure.
Roughly
let me
speaking,
let me
yes.
just sidebar real quick.
Please, yeah.
Just because I want to make a safety point. We were talking about the relative safety profile of brain stimulation or neuromodulation with these devices. That does not mean anyone should DIY this stuff. You can
Stick a 9-volt battery on your head.
The brain is incredibly sensitive. If you hit the wrong target, you can fuck yourself up or make your symptoms a lot worse. So do not DIY this. Go to a decent clinic. For people who want to explore it, I have no stake in any of these. Acacia Clinic in Sunnyvale in California, Salient, which I think is in Dallas. They may have other locations. Owen Muir, M-U-I-R, who's in New York. There are a couple of clinics that I know have very good reputations, but like work with somebody who knows these devices.
No 9-volt battery and a one of those pads that people use for their to give them apps.
I was about to go home with a Duracell batteries.
There's also, it's not, I don't think, indicated for migraines. I'm pretty sure it's specific to RA, to rheumatoid arthritis, but Setpoint Medical has an implant about the size of a small omega-3 it's like an outpatient procedure in the neck, and then it just stimulates like twice a day the vagus nerve.
No way.
Yeah. That was on the front. It was on the front cover of the New York Times the day that I interviewed Kevin Tracy, who was involved with the development of that device. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so they implant it directly into your neck.
Yeah.
How do you recharge it? Induction.
I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, I mean, it
It's
does get.
It's magnetic charging on your neck. Could you imagine?
On the device that kind of reads your thoughts, one thing you discover as you get more into meditation is just how sometimes your thoughts aren't even you. Like the ultimate example, even if you've not experienced any form of meditation, would be like a song that's stuck in your head.
Yeah.
I wonder how the device would differ between a song that's stuck in your head and something that you actually want it to do. Because I remember a great meditation technique.
I'm just imagining my ruminating given a microphone
back
into my ear. Just
I think the distinction being that there's sort of this concept of mind reading and or expression of a thought. And the expression of a thought is typically, when you're starting to speak, roughly you would have to, it's not purely like a thought reader in some sense. You would have to have an intent associated with it. So going back to your previous point on devices, though, my thesis is that the device that you'll probably wear when you interact with AI or whatever, if you want to, has not been invented yet. And it will have this combination of input, output that is much more less visible.
Didn't OpenAI claim that they were going to have 3 products or something? And obviously they've got Johnny Ive and the guy that made the iPhone, the original iPhone, and then they bought his company, which was called IO. And then there was this very cool, sexy video of him and Sam in a totally not fake bar somewhere, having a conversation.
I think it'd be the AirPods.
Yeah, they're actually building a phone, apparently.
Okay. They said 3 different things, and one of them is something that no one's ever seen before. Yeah. Which makes maybe a lapel thing, a little button or something like that.
The AirPod case makes the most amount of sense. because we're already using them. People wear them 24/7. The AirPods, what's that stat around? If the AirPod was a startup, it'd be like one of the most
I
valuable
think it's
startups
eighth in the world.
Oh, really? That's wild.
It's
I'm
remarkable.
Just that alone.
and half that's me contributing to.
Should we talk about that?
Yeah,
We've never spoken about this.
Let's see if I can pull it up.
Going back to your 3 devices thing, I think there's probably one device that is an affordance that's kind of listening and
You
or
pass me your. Wait, you were a raw
Yeah,
dogged it.
1000%.
Took a deer like, let's get rid of this free advertising.
there's this sort of one device that probably
higher up.
listens to
Higher
input
up in
in some
science.
mechanic or tries to process what you want in possibly a new way. That could be like a device that's kind of have a microphone or whatnot. There's another device where it's like a her type situation where he's wearing that earpiece and is constantly speaking to it. And then maybe that third device is kind of this glanceable world, right? Where you have this phone. Turns out now, applications are becoming less like people are using ChatGPT or Claude for everything, right? Like you go, I want to set a timer. You can do that in ChatGPT. You don't necessarily need a dedicated app. Maybe you want one or whatnot. But the idea of the app ecosystem being less valuable than it was before, given that
Elon's big on this, right? He thinks that all apps are going to go away and your phone is just going to create whatever you need whenever you need it.
roughly, exactly. And I think generally, today it's possible to build that type of device without having this ecosystem effect that was necessary in the past.
I wonder if that would open up a hole in the market, because at the moment the dominance has been
Apple,
pretty tough, despite the fact that Apple have kind of shit the bed a lot. They've
Totally.
the phones have really started to peter out in terms of the progress, at least from what I notice as a user. I can zoom in 15x, I can zoom in 20x, and
at some point it's like, what? It's a slab of glass and a combination of things. Like, what do you do? Do you
lighter,
innovate at the
it's
south-
a bit, the screen's brighter or sharper or something, but it's less noticeable. You remember when it was the iPhone 5 to the iPhone 12, and each time it was a noticeable leap forward. Almost the same that's been happening with the AI models. That it seems to have started to, at least in terms of noticeable user experience for me, it
I
seems
think
to
iOS gets worse every time I upgrade.
the keyboard
So
at the moment
bad.
just fucking sucks.
It's so bad.
When
But they do have an incredible war chest. So what do you think? I
never
don't know
bet
how
against a guy with a
I'm-
massive pile of money.
Well, what they can do is they can buy companies. So I'm wondering, I don't know, you have any thoughts on who they should buy?
There's a group of people that think that Apple's like the smartest company because they've let the world sort of play itself out, people spending a lot of money, and they're just waiting to see where it hits and then effectively do what they do best, which is never enter the market first, but be the best.
Yeah.
It's exactly what happened to cell phones or smartphones. Exactly what happened to kind of AirPods. There's all these some wireless.
Oh, they did with the iPod too.
iPod too. The iPod was the first element of it, even the computer in some sense.
Plenty of MP3 players
and so it's
before
like
that.
they've saved all of this cost for CapEx. Never spent anything like what
Go forth
Google,
and split test these products for us, my minions.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a ton of other companies.
They effectively let others do the R&D work to a certain extent and then refine that world potentially. And, there's an argument to be made that is a...
You don't need to be first, you just need to be best.
Right.
They
You wanna be
also
best.
make 20 billion per year from Google with
For
the
free.
Google search for free. So
That is
Google keeps
pure
going
profit.
up and up and up. So yeah, they're not going to dabble with touching that, which is why Siri's still.
what we haven't discussed is how much revenue you contribute to Apple on an annual basis.
I think I'm on my 17th AirPods. A lot.
because they're a slippery bar of soap.
Yeah. No, it's more. I've had a few stolen. I don't like having things on me as well, so I'll just like leave things. So like the amount of times I've left them at Dean's. But
Just a gift to the universe
but
over and over again.
the most frustrating thing is, Tim, is you can see where they all are. So there's one in particular right now that's in Cameroon, and I can see where his house is. Right? So no, I still have no, because I'm a sad little man. I'm not willing to fly into Cameroon to confront the man, but I am willing to press the play sound button.
Oh my god! Do it at night while they're sleeping.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Isn't there a single AirPod that's in the like WHO building?
Yeah, that was
remarkable.
Kai's AirPods that were in the WHO building. Yeah, just one AirPod was in
The
the
single AirPod that he was playing this sound through from the WHO building in New York
Look,
City.
look, there you go. It's just there right now. Oh, he's in
Amazing.
Ghana. He's in Ghana.
Oh, it's
There we go. 8 minutes ago.
Have you
Play
guys
sound.
ever? That's incredible. But what a great. I mean, I never leave my house without my AirPods.
This is why I think it's
Such a
I
power
keep,
user.
It's
I keep-
ridiculous.
Such a power
I
user.
keep sounding like a broken record here, but I assume the device is a little pod thing that we have now, headphones in, cameras in, but then it's almost, you could have a holographic screen, so people aren't on these glass screens as much, and you can make it big, make it small. That feels inevitable.
I mean, there's rumor that the next AirPods, like you said, do have the cameras, and that's crazy. If you think about it, you're walking around, there's sort of two spatially aware cameras around you.
Well, it's kind of like, what was it, Dark Knight Returns or Dark Knight Rises, when they had the cell phones.
Oh
that
yeah,
provided
and they mapped the
dimensional
entire
the
city.
entire, yeah.
I mean, what do you think Apple's going to do with that data?
I don't understand how they're going to do the whole Neuralink thing that you mentioned of they will read your thoughts, because of the fact that some thoughts I have, I didn't want to have. It wasn't
Right.
me. But there's this meditation technique I once sat in, which is, it's a real cool one.
So it sounds like you're pretty serious to meditating.
Yes, yeah. Well, it was originally to fight off a skin condition, and then it ended up
Fix that with
fixing-
AI.
Yeah, Gemini fixed that. So the story there was
Gemini fix your
the
syphilis.
that's can't be fixed. My friend.
AGI is here, man.
Sniffer gave me the syphilis.
Yeah.
No, I had subatomic dermatitis for about 2 years.
Okay. Subatomic?
Suboric dermatitis.
Okay, I was
So
like,
basically,
wait, what?
my face would break out like red,
Ah.
and I wouldn't want to go outside the house.
Ah.
So I spoke to a few different doctors. A lot of them recommended topical steroid
Yeah.
creams. A lot of them said it was because of stress. So I got deep into meditation. I stopped eating such little sugar that I once got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, which was a complete false diagnosis.
Huh.
Which
Yeah,
is
type
another,
1 is pretty hard.
which is
to,
another side story.
Yeah.
That's genetic,
But I
right?
want then
Not
when I was
always,
away,
but yeah.
I tracked my skin for years and nothing would work. So when I was away on holiday, I just uploaded the file to Gemini, and it just
The file, you mean a photo?
all the photos that I have, and it just said, "Oh, just put Nizoral shampoo on your face,"
Oh, wow.
and it's never
So
had an issue ever since.
So it was fungal?
Yes. So the biggest
Wow.
recommendation
So
I would give,
Nizoral is ketoconazole for people who are
Yes.
wondering. Yeah.
This is for dandruff.
and I do it once.
Say again.
This is for dandruff.
It's
Roughly.
also very effective for topical fungal
Really?
infections.
I did it once every 2 weeks now, and it's completely
Fucking crazy.
it's completely gone. So any recommendation at home, like a practical thing, would be just upload a photo of yourself to Gemini or ChatGPT and just say, "Hey, based off what you can see of my skin, recommend me moisturizers, recommend me everything, and it'll be better than."
Do you know
Wow.
what people
Anything
are using,
you've done
using
before.
that
What do you
for now?
use? What do you use Gemini for versus other models?
I'm an LLM whore, Tim.
Yeah.
Like I
Promiscuous.
I'm shifting.
He's like the
each day.
Andrew Huberman of LLMs.
Yeah, I'm shifting each day. Oh, but sorry, I didn't finish the story. So the meditation point there's a great question, which I ended up learning was asking your mind what thought's going to come up next. And it's like your mind gets it's almost this Mexican standoff. And the problem with these devices, I once asked myself that, and my mind went quiet for 6 seconds. And then for whatever reason, there's this former Bayern Munich winger called Ian Robben, and it's just him checking in on the left foot in my head. And it's like, was that me? Why is that there? So if I have a Neuralink device, it's an interesting one of how does it know what was me versus what's just my monkey mind doing strange behaviors.
You know, almost
I can't wait to see the first failed demos of, you know what I mean? Like these epic software demo fails. And someone gets up and it's just like twat, 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 twat.
Especially
it's like, no, sorry.
penis.
Especially given that the likelihood of it being Elon to do the first
Yeah.
presentation is quite high. A man with a mind that I don't think anybody wants to see broadcast out into public.
Did you see that demo of the Cybertruck where he was on stage?
Smash the window.
Yeah.
And he smashed the window. He was
Yeah.
like, wait, that's not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
The best film I've watched all year, it's a British film. It's probably one of the best storytelling examples I've ever heard. So people will know it from the Brits Award. It was this horrific incident where Michael B. Jordan went on stage and somebody shouted the N-word out. And it was this huge controversial incident. But what actually happened was it was a guy who has one of the most severe form of Tourette's.
Yeah.
And he was
the subject of a film.
He was subject of a film, so he was at the BAFTAs. So the film is called I Swear, and it's incredible because this guy grew up in Scotland, which is like, think about all the stereotypes you have about England. Like, the further north you get, the more like harsher it essentially is.
Yeah. It's why people from Aberdeen are some of the most like brutal people on the planet.
So this man grew up with extreme Tourette's in the 70s, 80s England when nobody knew what the condition was. So the film's amazing because it's just him like walking to the shops going, fat twat. And he goes, no, and he's just getting the shit beaten out of him. And he can't explain what it is. So he's constantly getting into fights. There's a scene where he's walking his dog, and this is real. So he's walking his dog across the, about to go across a busy road. And he loves this dog. There's a car coming and he goes, walk forwards now. And then he has to grab the dog. Like, he's Tourette's.
Wow.
He's fighting against himself.
Yeah, he's fighting against himself. It's so good. It's such a good film.
Oh, where can you see it?
If you just search I Swear.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
So
I missed it.
Fuck you.
from Living with Chris, the man's a bit of a boomer.
Yeah.
And I'll often like give him a recommendation and he'll go, where can I see it? And if it's not on Netflix, he can't get it.
No.
Just Google
no.
it. Just figure
That's
it
not
out.
fair.
It is.
That's not fair, and that's not
Go
true.
on.
But my response is, what can I watch it on?
And I'll just say, Google it.
Right, but that's a fair. I feel like this is a little bit like, here's a fantastic new restaurant. Okay, what street's it on? I just want a little bit more information, and the fact that you want me knowing what you know, which is that you might understand what streaming service it's on, saying to me that I have to go and Google it when you could just say it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And me and Tim, this side of the table, we just expect a little bit more decorum. You know what I mean?
This is why I want AGI to come, because it gives me
so
meaning
glad
to
you brought
finally
this up,
not deal with this shit.
All right.
Wait, going back to the photo thing, do you guys know what people are utilizing ChatGPT and whatnot for when they upload photos of themselves? Looksmaxxing.
Oh,
Well, that's interesting. Do you know Coves? Have you
What
heard
do
of
they?
Coves?
What?
So
So
they
what?
upload a set of photos. There's these apps on the App Store too now that kind of do a wrapper experience. But the idea is that effectively, you upload photos to Gemini or ChatGPT, and then it suggests things that you might want to do, whether
Smash
it's
your cheekbones with this type of
medical procedure, jaw surgery,
hammer.
having a symmetric face, even things like hairstyle make a huge difference, or a beard
Thank
or
God I can
whatever.
skip that section.
And roughly, it's really interesting that people are doing this because obviously there's this huge craze of looksmaxxing and whatnot, and turns out huge use case for AI.
Dude, check out Coves. I've just sent this to you, Jared.
QOV.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
there
look
it
at
is.
this. So this is glow up without surgery. Get your personalized facial analysis and transformation
Based
plan
on 2,000 academic
2,000
studies.
So I know the science team behind it. The science team behind this are absolutely sick. So look at the guy on the right, and then you should be able to do a transition. You see how you can get the middle of the guy's face? You should be able to click on it. And yeah, exactly. So move it all the way to the right,
And you was worried about meaning Tim. Look at this.
and then go to the left.
Wow.
Got it. So it's like drive-by shooting suspect to
Yeah.
soap opera star.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Get more career opportunities, boost your self-confidence, make a stronger first impression, improve your dating life, enhance your quality of life. So basically, it's
Go. Let me see the one on the left again.
you just swing it.
She's really attractive.
Yeah,
I
but
feel
she's
like that's
more
one of those
attractive.
like Sandra Bullock. Oh, she takes off the glasses and walks out. She goes from
Yeah, you're like, wait, she just
nerd
put her
to
hair up.
supermodel.
That's all she did.
She's shaped her face a bit. Do it
Cool.
again, Jared. Show me.
Slow
Not
it down.
that quick.
Slow it down. Go really slow.
Fucking hell.
Really,
What's
really
happened?
slow.
This is just IRL Facetune, right?
Yeah.
So if there's like Facetune has all of the Facetune. Do you guys know what Facetune is?
I don't.
I
know
learned
what this
about
is.
it from Freya India a couple of weeks ago.
One of the most. It came out a long time ago. Israeli company, and
Of course it is.
and it's just a easy way of manipulating the way that your face looks, and slims your jawline or whatever.
What do you mean?
Gives you hair
easy
back.
way?
Like as in on a photo, not actually. So it turns out every Instagram or before they post, anytime people post photos, they typically went through the same workflows. And Facetune was kind of a just a bunch of tools that you can utilize. And now with AI,
Oh yeah.
holy crap! I mean, the possibilities are quite limitless. And so it can regenerate that photo. And so at the bottom there are all these like AI filters, and people use them so much. And often I heard this story where one of my friends met somebody from Instagram, and they had all these photos, and she looked nothing like herself real life.
Bro, let me give you this from Freya.
From Freya?
Freya India is a girl, a writer who just released a book called Girls.
The Nordic god?
She does look a little bit like that, blonde hair. She's like what's the female equivalent of the Ubermensch? Uberfreund or whatever it's called.
Buffon?
Yeah, she's that. Yeah. She was telling me that when groups of young girls are out and they're taking photos at a party, everybody fights to be the one whose phone is used to have the photo taken, because that means that they're the one that's in charge of the face tuning.
Yep.
So that they can work on themselves a little bit more. I know.
It's actually a huge social faux pas if you post a picture where you look good and the other person doesn't.
That is stitching your mate up a little bit. You know, there's a famous English footballer called Ashley Cole. Can you just search Ashley Cole squad photo? And how old is this? 10 years?
Yeah, he was at Roma, and he's retired.
Do you want to tell the story?
Now. Well, it's just a squad photo. It's one of those, I know it when I see it, ideas, I guess. But it's just a football photo of the entire Roma team. And Ashley Cole, who's this Brit, is like trying to mingle with these Italians.
Just click on top left.
Iconic. Top left. Because he's just awkwardly leaning on the outside. So then he gets memed everywhere.
This became one of the biggest memes in the world for a long time. It's a team that looks like they're so
What's
close.
the headline? Scroll down a little bit.
Ashley Cole appears to be an outcast in an incredibly awkward Roma team picture.
The amount of times me and Chris have been out with like a group of guys and I'll do the Ashley Cole 2 yards.
He just moves off to one side, ruins it.
In.
Absolutely ruins it. All right, boys, let's bring this one into land. You all rule. Tim, what have you got coming up? Where should people go to check out your things?
You can find everything at tim.blog. I'd say that's probably the easiest. Yeah, check out the newsletter. It's been going for like 10, 12, 14, God knows how many years. 5 Friday.
What was that most recent article about self-improvement, what I learned from however many years of self-improvement?
Yes. Yeah, it's called the self-help trap. What I learned after 20 years of quote unquote, improving myself.
That's awesome.
Basically. That's a long form. That's on the blog, 12 pages. Tim.blog/Friday. Sign up for the newsletter. A lot of the stuff that we're talking about, like go back if you want some. Also, another reason to check out neurostimulation, go back and look at the Brainsway stock graph for the last 2 or 3 years. So that type of stuff you'll learn about before other people.
Okay.
I'm not a registered investment advisor. Blah, 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 blah.
You may lose money. Yeah.
No, I appreciate you guys having me on. Our app is called Skye, SKYE, and it's a fun little experience. It's kind of a new way to experience your phone. It's kind of ironic that I talked about that we talked about the digital detox or whatever, but our goal is to kind of really make you stop using as much as you would otherwise by surfacing the things that you might care about before, such that you don't go into this doom scrolling world or whatever. Imagine something that exists there. It's there when you need it. It's gone when you don't, and we don't really have anything else. So it's a fun little thing. Couple people, and we've got tens of thousands of people on a wait list right now. So we're trying to fulfill that. Inference is very expensive, but it's been the time of my life to build this. I guess I love technology so much, and I love interfaces, and I love thinking about the world with respect to how the future might be in terms of people interacting with the technology in a meaningful way, not necessarily in a doom scrolling sort of this world that we've kind of built. So I don't know where we'll go with that, but it's been an incredible time building. And what a time to be alive. As if you're any type of builder today, it is probably one of the most remarkable times I've ever witnessed. I'm baffled every day. And so it's been so much fun. And we're just getting started. So I'm really excited for that.
And at Signal on X with 2 L's, SIGNULL, if you want to see you call out the Xbox CEO a little bit more.
That's pretty hilarious. I wonder if she's going to watch this.
Tickler.com/signal.
Yeah.
Sniffies.
Sniffies.
Sorry, I need to take that username from that app.
Yeah, match with me there. My end, highagency.com/books. If you want to get a breakdown of all my best books, you told me to do this. There's going to be a book breakdown, a list of a load of different books, but the personal one of Oblomov, a Russian man from the 18th century who the first 50 pages are about him getting out of bed. So there's more resources like that. Get my best books and articles. That's it.
Heck yeah. All right.
Let's go.
See you next time, everyone. Yo.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
Good fun.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of a full podcast episode. You are not so TikTok brained that you've completely dissolved into nothingness. Why not watch another one? Right here. Go on, press it.